Good evening, Yorktown, and welcome to the Town Board work session for February 9th, 2021. If you can, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And if you please join me in a moment of silence as we remember those who have lost their lives to COVID-19, including most recently a very dear friend of Yorktown, Tommy Pompicello Sr. We pray and remember all of our frontline heroes, our medical professionals, doctors, nurses, our teachers, sanitation workers, grocery store workers. Of course, remember our first responders, police officers, and the bravest men and women the world has ever known who are serving overseas to protect our freedom.
And Matt, may I also add one of our local business people, Gina DiPaterio, lost her dad as well this past week to COVID. Add him in our prayers.
Thank you. Good evening again, everyone. My name is Matt Slater, Town Supervisor for the Town of Yorktown, joined tonight by Councilwoman Alice Roker, Councilman Vishnu Patel, Councilman Ed Lachterman, and Councilman Tommy Diana. We do have a whole host of topics to cover tonight, so we're going to jump right into it with our first presentation, and we're going to welcome the team from Underhill Farms. We have with us tonight Mark Blanchard, Joe Rena, Phil Greeley, Dr. Phil. We also have with us Paul Galero and Mike. Is that Mike Oates?
Yes.
Hey, Mike. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Very good. So gentlemen, I'm going to turn it over to you, and if you would like to begin your presentation.
Thank you, Supervisor. Good evening to the board members, to the town's professional staff, members of the public. My name is Mark Blanchard. I am with the firm Blanchard and Wilson. We are land use attorneys to the Underhill Farms project. We are appreciative of the time allotted to us tonight. We're very happy to be here presenting to you. We think we're bringing a very interesting project to the town board for this presentation. The reason why I say I think it's interesting is our inspiration goes back to 2010. We're taking one of the goals that was set forth in the Yorktown Comprehensive Plan as amended and adopted in 2010. We're going to be showing you a walkable community in close proximity to the Yorktown Heights downtown business district that's meant to strengthen that district. We're going to be showing you a project that seeks to maximize the preservation of existing open space while also offering new recreational opportunities and open space that will be accessible to the public. We're going to be showing you soon some other amenities that the project is going to be offering to the town, including one very special amenity is the preservation of a locally significant historical structure. I'm very proud to be a part of this team that's with you tonight. As Supervisor Slater stated, we have Joe Rena, our project engineer. We have Phil Greeley, our traffic and roadway improvement engineer. Christopher Lessard is our project architect. They will all be speaking. And finally, Paul Galero, the managing member of the project owner and sponsor, will be wrapping up our presentation with some specific project benefits and other issues. We do note that we don't have unlimited time tonight, so we would ask, our request is that we could save questions until the very end, as we are hoping to answer as many of them as we can as we walk through our presentation. We are, of course, here at your preference. We're here to answer your questions, so we'll answer at any time, but our preference would be to hold those questions to the end. I see Mr. Rena has started to share his screen. My remarks really were only introductory, so I'd like to turn it over to Joe, and he'll walk you through our the renderings and the preliminary segment. Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Joe.
Yep.
Hi. So, the Underhill Farm site
as you formerly known as the Soundview School, Preparatory School, is located at the northwest intersection of Underhill Avenue and Route 118. It's bounded to the west by Glenrock Street. It's a 13.8 acre site. It's zoned R140. As you enter the site through the main entry, there's a driveway that splits here, takes you around the main building that's on the site here, takes you around the site. There's a parking lot along 118. The driveway then continues around. There are outbuildings out on the rear part of the site, which will be removed, and then the driveway will continue on out back to the entry. On the left side, there is an existing pond, which is a significant feature on the site that's going to be maintained. This is the topographic survey of the property to give you a little more context as to, and a little more detail as to what we're talking about. Here's the drives that I spoke about, the parking area, the buildings. This is the main building, which is going to remain. Here is the pond. There are some small town wetlands on the site. There's a wetland here, a wetland in this location here, and then there's a watercourse wetland, which is its source is the drainage system in Glenrock Street. It runs basically west to east and feeds the pond. And in a later slide, I'm going to show you how we're going to maintain and enhance that feature. The site is the wooded area of the site, which is the west side of the site, is bisected by the original fire road that was constructed as a secondary access to Beaver Ridge. We will be eliminating that, but we will be reconstructing that in another location and continue to provide that secondary access to Beaver Ridge. To provide some context, the project site is adjacent to other multifamily projects that were previously built. To the south, you have 4 projects, which again are multifamily, and they range in a density from 7.2 units per acre up to 12.3 units per acre. To the north, you have Beaver Ridge, which is 19.3 units per acre. Our project is going to be 12 units per acre. So the proposal before you is a mixed-use development consisting of 165 residential units and approximately 12,000 square feet of retail space or commercial space, which doesn't include the use of the existing residence, which Mr. Galero will take you through a little bit later on. So the project is going to be developed in 2 phases. The first phase is going to be the west side of the property, which includes 50 townhouse units. There will be a separate entry drive for that section of the development, terminating in a cul-de-sac. These units along Glenrock Street that back up to Glenrock Street are all 6 units per building, and the buildings on the opposite side, these are uphill units, these are downhill units, we're calling them. These are going to be 4 units per building. As you make this right turn here, this is going to be a condominium building here, which will contain 30 condominium units. There will be parking underneath the building as well as some parking across, which will also be shared by and mainly used by the clubhouse amenity with a swimming pool for for this section of or the first phase of the development. The second phase of the development will be the construction of an apartment complex. There'll be 85 apartment units here. The first floor of this building will be underground parking, as well as the 12,000 square feet of commercial and retail use. So the main access for that phase will continue to be the main entrance of the site. So you'll come in. There'll be some parking added here for use by this building. Additional parking to be provided for the commercial space will be on the Underhill side, on the Sawmill River Road side of the building, and it's generally in the same location as the existing parking is currently. As you make your way around the site, you'll see this is the connection point which I spoke of that will continue to provide fire connection, emergency connection to Beaver Ridge. In addition to that, in this location here is where the proposed senior center that is going to be constructed on the Beaver Ridge property, which has been discussed, and everyone knows about that. And parking along this edge here will be provided on the Underhill Farm site for that senior center. Access to the underground parking underneath the apartment complex will be from this location here. The main entry to the apartment complex will be at this section, this point here. As you can see, there is also a pool amenity for the apartment complex. And over in this corner here, there's an outdoor patio area that could be potentially ancillary to a commercial use, possibly a restaurant or something like that. So as you make your way out around the site, you're back again to the main entry point, which is located right here. During the first phase of construction, the existing driveway will be maintained so that that fire access will always be there for Beaver Ridge. So even though this will not be constructed as of new, it will remain in place. And as I said, that continued access will be there. Recognizing that this location is the southern gateway into the Heights, Mr. Galero has found it important to preserve to the greatest extent possible the most visible part of the site, and that's along Underhill Avenue. The main entranceway will be maintained, including the pillars and gates that are there and stone wall, which I'll get to a photograph of that shortly. The front of the site will maintain, as I said, a park-like setting. The pond will be enhanced, and walking paths will be constructed around the pond with sitting areas at certain vista points. And the pathway will continue across and terminate at the corner of 118 and Underhill Avenue, where a plaza area will be constructed, and I'll detail that in a little bit more in a short while. In addition to that, this area here is going to be an enhanced wetland area that will be constructed. The water course, which is existing, that, as I said, feeds the pond, will continue to be a main source of water for the pond. It will be reconstructed and enhanced. There'll be a little footbridge going over it at this point here, so it'll become part of this, a feature of the site, a water feature of the site. This here is going to be a pocket wetland which will be created. It will serve as a stormwater quality feature for stormwater generated from the west portion of the project. This area will be further enhanced with landscaping. It's going to be an amenity. It's going to be a destination open to the public to use for walking, relaxation, ice skating, anything that would attract someone to the site and want to enjoy this beautiful park-like setting out in the front part of the site. This is just a planimetric view of the site. This is the existing main driveway entrance, which I spoke of. Again, just to give you a view of this and the way it looks now, and it's going to be enhanced and even look much more attractive once the project is complete. At the corner of 118 and Underhill, there's an existing gate, a wrought iron gate and fencing there. This is the area where a plaza will be created. This will also be a connection point from the site over to and across the intersection where there's an existing pathway, and Phil Greeley will get into that a little more and get you over to the town hall side of the site. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Phil. And before I get in there, let me just mention one other thing. This is just as for your information. This is a preliminary mitigation plan to show the reconstruction of the water course and the new wetland that will be created over on the at the head of the pond here on the west side. All right, so Phil, you're on.
Good evening, everybody. Philip Greeley, Mazer Consulting. So we are in the process of finalizing a traffic study. Just very briefly, as Joe stated, pedestrian and vehicular connectivity here is very important. The upper portion of this drawing in the northeasterly corner of the site is where the connection for both pedestrians and vehicles would occur, connecting to Beaver Ridge and where the new senior center is. So there would be some, traffic control and pedestrian accommodations made on the site to accommodate that. As Joe indicated, the site is going to be developed in phases. So the first phase is 80 condo townhouse units at the western portion of the site. In that vicinity, the axis would be aligned opposite Rochambeau Court. To give you some feeling for, what does 80 condo townhouse units generate in terms of traffic? So on a peak hour basis, development of that size, it would generate about 55 vehicle trips, okay? And to put it in context of the intersection of Route 118 and Underhill Avenue, that intersection accommodates about 1,500 vehicles in a peak hour today. And when we talk about traffic, we focus on peak hours, morning and afternoon peak hours in terms of both commuter traffic and traffic generated by a site. So it's important to understand that the site will be developed in phases. And as part of the first phase, there would be certain improvements that would be done to offset any of our traffic increases. And that would be done utilizing upgrading the existing signal and the timings and the allocation of time during peak hours to better serve the volumes that occur out there today to reduce some of the issues of queuing that really primarily the traffic on Underhill Avenue is higher than on Route 118 south of the site. Okay, so on this drawing here, and we have some other drawings that Joe's trying to pull up, but in the first phase, which is really the area to the west of the pond.
Bill, did you want me to move to another drawing?
Yeah, if you could go back to you have the fourth sheet on here. Go back to sheet 1 just briefly.
Sorry.
Okay, so so this is the connection back near the senior center. In purple is the proposed senior center. There would be a vehicular and a pedestrian connection to Beaver Ridge. So it would handle the local traffic from the development and the pedestrian traffic. Joe, if you could go to the next drawing then. And then in the vicinity of sheet number 2, you're on sheet 4. Well, I can use this. Okay, so on the left-hand side of this drawing, we are showing a new crosswalk. And that would be just to the west of the main entrance to the site that serves the site today. And that would be a pedestrian crossing together with what we call an RFB, a rapid flashing beacon, which is a pedestrian activated flashing signal that would allow pedestrians to cross to the sidewalk that exists on the south side of Underhill Avenue. And that would also allow people that live on Rochambeau Drive and Cardinal Court, if they wanted to come over and enjoy the amenities or just to walk, this connectivity in terms of a pedestrian path, which would tie into the improvements around the pond and would also get you over to the renovated, rehabilitated existing building, which would have some load generating traffic uses associated with it. So the first phase would be traffic signal improvements and pedestrian enhancements, some sight distance improvements right now at Rochambeau Drive. There's some sight distance issues exiting there. There's some clearing of brush, some grading that would have to be done in association with the construction of the access to the condos and the townhouses. So prior to any occupancy in the phase 2 of development, so we're only would have the 80 dwelling units and the rehabilitated, renovated, main house structure on the property in phase 1. And then prior to phase 2, we've come up with a master plan to improve the intersection of Underhill and 118. Right now, under peak hours, you have long delays. It's due to the lack of turning lanes. In the first phase, we can make improvements that would offset any increases from our traffic with just signal upgrades and some of the other things I talked about. Beyond that, and also to account for other background traffic. So I think it's important, number one, to point out that as part of our traffic study, we started studying this last year, but we had historical data prior to the pandemic, okay? So we know the conditions that were out there, the backups that occurred and the queues and the other operations. That can be, for phase 1, offset with the signal improvements. When we start looking at the growth and other potential traffic that will be added to this intersection, and as I said, before phase 2 advances, we came up with a plan. Joe, if you could zoom out just a little bit on this drawing.
Sorry, Phil, what did you say?
If you could just zoom out a little bit on this drawing, just so I can describe it a little better. That's perfect. Perfect. So what this plan does is widens Underhill Avenue along the site frontage in order to develop a separate left turn lane, as well as an opposing left turn lane on the town hall side. And this plan would be done with either existing right-of-ways, town-owned land, or land owned by Soundview as part of the Underhill development. So there would actually be some land dedicated to accommodate this type of an improvement. This improvement would replace entirely the traffic signal. It would tie in pedestrian crossings on all approaches to meet DOT current standards. Right now, the predominant movements at the intersection in the afternoon are left turns from Underhill Avenue onto Route 118 towards the center of town, towards Triangle. And in the morning and even in the afternoon, a heavy southbound right turn flow from 118 onto Underhill Avenue. Right now, people use the shoulder to make that movement, to process. This plan would develop a fully right turn lane to separate out that flow and replace the signal and would provide increased capacity. This improvement, which preliminary estimates are over $750,000 to accomplish this, requires some reconstruction of portions of the stone retaining wall along the project frontage. There would be land that would be dedicated from the project in order to accommodate the widening, including drainage, pavement, etc. And the retaining wall would be reconstructed. Some portions of that are starting, it's in fairly good shape, but it would be reconstructed and reset to accommodate that. So it would still maintain the look. Along 118, we have done the improvement to maintain the retaining wall along Route 118, and there would be some additional enhancements in the corner of Underhill and 118 as the entrance to the project, which Joe had shown. Again, all do pedestrian push buttons, coordination, signal, and the applicant would work together with the town. This involves New York State DOT also, and we know what that means. That the applicant would work together to develop these into construction level plans. These are concept plans, but develop into construction level plans, do the permitting, and get all of these improvements in place before phase 2 was occupied. So there is a master plan for the intersection. This wouldn't all be done with phase 1. Phase 1, we handled that amount of traffic. Remember that a lot of the traffic from phase 1, we have the connectivity to Beaver Ridge, plus a good amount of traffic still goes to the west on Underhill to get to and from the Taconic Parkway. So not everybody from the project goes through this intersection. But this is the master plan that would have to be implemented to resolve all the issues here, improve significantly conditions over what they are today, even with the added traffic from this project. So that's really kind of the approach that we've taken here. Again, for each phase, we will offset with our improvements any of the increased traffic from our development. And at the end of that, we'll actually reduce delays and reduce the queues, especially the queues on Underhill Avenue that back up well past Rochambeau and past Glenrock on occasional peak times. That's pretty much it. I'll turn it over to Chris to talk about some of the architects.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My name is Chris Lessard, the CEO of Lessard Design, located in Virginia. I'm licensed in approximately 30 states, been past chairman of the AI Housing Committee, national, currently on the Gold Council Multifamily Urban Land Institute. We've worked in, like all over the world, we've worked in the United Kingdom, Middle East, India, and China. And we really do a lot of town planning and kind of develop kind of places for people to live. It's not just buildings, but it's a negative space around the buildings. The interesting part of doing this job is I met Paul originally, basically over the phone, and he would not hire me until he insisted that I come see the site before I did anything. And what struck me about the site is its tranquility from the pond and the impact of the historic house and the basic entry sequence, which has remained intact in terms of the layout. That really meant a lot. It really kind of set the tone of what ultimately become the architecture. It is an age-targeted community where it's focused more towards active adults, and it kind of shows up in architecture. I think hit the next slide. It really kind of feels like a hamlet. This is the apartment building, and this shows roughly the 20,000 square feet of retail at the entry. You're able to see that off Sawmill, but you're going to be able to extend this space in the outdoor dining space. So it's really a mixed-use environment for the residents and also from the people outside the area. You know, we think that there's going to be great opportunity for retail, but there also might be opportunity for medical office because the residents will need it. And so I think it might be an appropriate location. We will design a system to make sure a restaurant channeling system will work in the building. This kind of shows the first floor parking grid. Next slide. I'm going to try to be faster than the other people. So the thing is, the amenity space here is pretty significant. Each product has really a different amenity. This one here shows you the central two-story volume space, which is the amenity in the middle of the building. We have an outdoor pool set up. We have plenty of amenity inside, which is, club room and all sorts of facilities like fitness, things of that nature. Also, the scale of the building is really a 3-story with basement. The rest of the buildings in the project are either 1, 2, or 3 in terms of scale. So it's trying to fit in and not feel like a quote project where it's a monolithic type of answer to a site. We don't typically do buildings that are this small where we're doing 30 units in a building and this one's 85, where it's usually larger. So I think, and also taller. So I think this kind of sets the tone of what reinforces a like Hamlet type of feeling that you have throughout the community. Hit the next slide for a second. Oh, by the way, before you go, write down is a key that shows where things are located. So it helps you understand how things relate always to the house, how they always relate to the pond, and also the condo club room. Next slide. This is a condominium building, 30 units, so it's a pretty small building, 3-story. It also has its own amenities, which is the condo clubhouse on grade, which with a pool right next to the pond. But also we have amenities up within the penthouse space. Within that penthouse space is an overlook. So they're in there with their lounge space, TV, some kitchen area, but that when they come out to the outdoor space, they're able to view down to the tranquil setting that has been established for years. It shows kind of the grade, how it steps down to the right, where you can enter with an underground parking garage. And there's been a lot of effort to make sure that the parking has been hidden so you don't really see the impact of what it might be. Next slide. We've tried to make everything pretty much age targeted, which we have uphill and downhill sites. And what Joe didn't mention is related to the street next door, which is Glen Rock. Those are uphill units, so that's really 2-story elevations that are along that street edge. This is an example of a downhill unit where we're trying to get a master bedroom down, so it gives people choice in Yorktown Heights for something they probably don't have easily, which is gets everything on the first floor, gets additional rooms upstairs, but it really is designed for an empty nester. Next slide. These are the elevations. The one at the bottom is the downhill townhouse. It has stone and lap siding, very similar to the historic building. We have detailing that's a little bit like the historic building, even on the uphill townhouses. You can see some of the rake boards and the details around that, and the heavy trim details, which you also see in the historic building. And you have very small buildings kind of grouped around the site, which kind of reinforces. Even though I don't have an elevation here, we have a. If you go back to the site area, so you could point to where the condo club area is. Don't have to go to a site plan, just a reference to one of the other site plans.
Go to the site plan?
Not to yours. You could go, why don't you go to the condo building? Right there, you see the location of the condo building, but I'm pointing it out in order to talk about the condo clubhouse with the pool. That also has amenity for the residents in the condominium and the for sale regime. And it has a WeWork type of environment. It's going to have kitchen space, offices, so you can have conferences. You'll have fitness space, and you'll go out to the pool area. It's also a large outdoor deck space, so they can sit and eat and look over the pool. We'll also have outdoor eating, where there's going to be grills and things of that nature placed there. And also on purpose, we're not using the same type of architecture in the rest of the project that's really keying off the historic building, but we're going to have more of a feeling of a jewel house type building. It's one story. It will be, in architecture, it will be different because it will be, it will set itself separately than all the rest of the architecture. We're still working on the designs, but we're kind of working on that. And part of it is this development is trying to reinforce, which we think will also have activities within the existing renovated house. I don't want to steal Paul's thunder, but that basically, this development will help put $1 million or so and renovate it and create other features, which I know Paul's excited about talking about. Paul, you want to go next? Actually, go to the slide towards the end. Joe, just a perspective that shows. Keep going. Next one.
Cool.
Is that? Oh, Joe, hit the first slide. Yeah, that one. Okay, so Paul can talk about the building and the setting.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Good evening. I am Paul Galaro, president of Unicorn Contracting, the developer of the Underhill Farm project. You may be familiar with the Caremount project we recently completed across Route 118 from the site. During Caremount's grand opening, I was intrigued by numerous seniors in attendance who spoke of a need for senior housing near the downtown area. This has become our main goal for this project, to provide senior housing in many different types of living units, such as apartments, condo flats, and townhouses. Of the 165 units, 135 of them will be senior friendly, and over half will be designed specifically for seniors. Another goal was to create access for all Yorktown residents who would be able to enjoy and experience the historic main building, the pond, and the grounds on the property. I would like to make a few points and highlights of this project. Our plan is to invest over $1.5 million in restoring and enhancing the existing historic building, pond, and grounds. The concept would be to create a pedestrian-friendly park-like setting with walking paths from the original entrance at the intersection of Route 118 and Underhill, which will meander through 3 acres of property where the pond and the house are situated. We are open to public-private partnerships to provide access to the public so residents of Yorktown and others can enjoy the rich history of the Underhill estate. It is an ideal location for a museum and/or historical society. Our plan initially will be for a coffee shop restaurant on the first floor level, and then hopefully the balance of the first floor will be some type of use, like a museum or some type of town office. We are also amenable to providing necessary parking for a new senior center and rec department offices, while also providing a much improved second means of access to the Beaver Ridge complex. We are aware of the current traffic issue that exists at the intersection of Route 118 and Underhill Avenue, and we are prepared to work with the town to make necessary improvements by providing funds to the town of Yorktown for design and obtaining approvals for New York State Department of Transportation, while also contributing to the construction. Lastly, this project will contribute over $1 million in additional tax revenue to the town of Yorktown. In summary, we will be providing at no cost to the town access to the grounds, the main building, senior center parking, and financial support for the improvement of the Route 118 Underhill intersection. This concludes our presentation, and we are here and available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Galero. Any questions from the board? I think we also have John Tegeter and Robin Steinberg from our planning department with us as well. I don't know if they have any questions, but of course, feel free.
I had a couple of questions. Is it possible to take the screen share down so I can see who I'm talking to?
Take the share down?
If you guys don't mind, does anyone have a problem with that?
I do,
There
Ed.
we go. Too bad timing. Too late. So, hello everyone. Thank you for the presentation. I'm sorry. Paul, I have to apologize. I sort of missed what on the number. You said there were 165 units. How many of those were you dedicating towards senior living?
Well, yes, there's going to be 135 are going to be senior friendly, which means, a senior can live in any of those 135, but half of them, we're looking at roughly 80 to 85 will be units that are specifically designed just for the seniors.
Very good. I definitely like the WeWork area too, because that might appeal for some of our kids who we hope would move back into the area as well.
Sure.
And then you mentioned how much to get the house renovated is the estimate?
The house is probably going to be $1 million, and then the balance, the pond, walkways, from roughly the pond and the building, the main building to the road is going to be another $500,000. The pond is in pretty bad shape, so it needs to be, rehabbed.
I could actually see that. When the mention of ice skating on it, you'd have to rehab it just for the water to be able to freeze, I think, on that. So a lot of the conversation that has been around the site spoke about the historic value of the site. Now, I of course, anyone could tell the house has that historic value. Some people say the pond has a historic value. I think there was a question on it being where Yorktown used to get its ice from in the winter. But have you done like an archaeological survey, inventory of the property, and to see what's worth saving and what they're saying is, hey, this is historical?
Yes, we've commissioned Hudson Valley Cultural Resource Consultants, and they've done all their field work. Their report should be finished in the next week or so. But basically, the summary of it is that the existing main building should be saved, okay, and possibly the chapel building. All the other structures are either in poor condition or modified to the point where they do not have much historical value any longer.
Very good. All right. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Dr. Grilly, question for you on the traffic. Why not a roundabout? I know you're a fan of them. I'm just curious. Why not a roundabout?
It's a possibility. A couple of things. With the pedestrians, accommodating pedestrians at the roundabout is a little bit more complicated.
Yep, good point.
Also, we are trying to preserve the look of the retaining walls along the property, both along Route 118 and on Underhill. Mm-hmm. And then the other part that makes it a little complicated is if you look back at the intersection, it's not a square intersection. So, you have a skew of Underhill Avenue, and to try to create a roundabout with enough separation from the north leg of 118 and the easterly leg, the town hall leg of that, becomes very difficult to fit a roundabout and then and still get both of those approaches. Okay. So
I see it. I was just curious because I know you've come to us before on some other projects in the hamlet here and beyond, and I know roundabouts have been a point of conversation. So,
Yeah. And again, it's not gonna. I'm not going to say never to that, but we have grading issues along the town hall side because the grade drops off there. But the most complex item is the proximity of the north leg and the east leg. Once you put a roundabout in there, they are too close to function.
Okay.
And again, the positioning of the roundabout would take up some more of that area where the old gate, the gate entrance to the property is. So, but again, never say never, but this is what we came up with. We did look at a roundabout when we started looking at grades and the proximity of those two legs. We moved on to a more conventional intersection with full pedestrian amenities and crossings and ADA compliance issues.
Makes sense. When you explain it this way, also with the pedestrian crossings, that obviously makes a lot more sense than a roundabout. But again, as you said, never say never. Well, we don't know what our friends at DOT might have to say, but that's something I wanted to make sure I understood.
Yeah, we did look at it, so a good question.
Matt, I think you stole Tommy's thunder because I know he's like the traffic guy and he loves those circles.
I do like the roundabouts, to be quite honest with you.
Yes.
I know that. Councilwoman Roker, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. Mr. Galero, you're hoping the town board will put this property in the new overlay district. I'm just wondering if you ever considered just bringing it to the town board and going for a straight rezoning.
Right now, we're obviously just wanted to, go under the current overlay. Sounds like it's going to be more user friendly, but I'm not saying that we wouldn't be open to it.
Okay.
John Taggart, are you still on here? Because all I see is the plan here.
I am on.
Boy, that sounds right. I'm on.
What street are we talking about again?
I was just, I got a couple questions that you might be able to help us with here. The property north of the Sound View is approximately 20 acres per unit, right? And to the south is like 8 to 12.
Yes.
And to the east is basically commercial, correct?
That's correct.
Now, the Sound View, or should I say, let me call it by its proper name now, the Underhill Farms project would be generating about 12 units per acre. Am I correct in my assumption?
Right. Yep.
Okay. So why wouldn't we want to put this in as in the overlay district? Why wouldn't we want to do this as the overlay with the commercial under on the first floor of that one particular area there? I think
that the overlay district adds a lot of flexibility. That, number one, allows you to have the retail component. It also allows the town to talk about the historical structures and determine that certain of those structures should be saved and also reused in a particular way. And then, of course, there's the recreation component, and I would say a little bit cultural component, along with the historic structure, but also the pond, in that it becomes an amenity that can be used by the public. Now, if it was under another zone, such as the R3 zone, it's unlikely, or we haven't seen this, or we've seen it very few times, where you would have, a pond being open to the general public in the way that this one is shown to be. Nor would I think it would be very likely to see the historic home be repurposed in a manner in which the general public can avail themselves and experience the house from both inside and out, from both the roadway and personal connection to it. So I think all of those things taken together is why the overlay zone, as it's written now, makes sense for this project. The other part is with the advent of the senior center / recreation office, the ability to work with the developer to have them provide some and really the lion's share of the parking requirement is also important. So all those taken together, I think, renders the project more realizable for both the desires of typically what the town would be looking for and also for the developer. And I think that's why it makes sense.
Great, John.
Hey,
Thank
John.
you so much. And also, do we have any current plans on the books to fix our current traffic problems on Underhill and 118, to your knowledge?
At this intersection?
Yeah.
No, not that I know of. First of all, it's 118 is state road, so even a lot of Underhill in front of the town hall is, believe it or not, state owned as well. So no, we do not. We do not have plans. We have not even at this point begun a conversation with DOT yet on this particular intersection, because we have others that are failing in a more dramatic fashion, and we've been talking to them about those.
Yeah. Mr. Galero, how are you tonight?
Great. How are you?
Very well. I got a couple questions for you.
Sure.
If you don't mind, how much do you anticipate in general maintenance and upkeep of this property per year?
Well, what area? You talking about just the public area that we're going to open up, or the house, the pond, the walkways?
I would say probably in general, just an overview of what you anticipate that this is going to cost you per year to keep up to snuff for the people to come in and out and take a look.
So I'd say the public component of it is going to be about $350,000 a year.
Wow, that's impressive. Our tree ordinance is very restrictive. Are you going to be able to comply to our code?
Well, our consultant has already reviewed that, and when all said and done, I think there's going to be around 300 protected trees that are going to have to be replaced, and we're prepared to do that.
Oh boy, that's great. That's great. And this project is it true that this project is going to bring in approximately $1 million in tax revenue to the town?
At a minimum.
That's a sizable chunk. In the building itself, the historic building, would you be open to possibly giving a room to the Historic Society of Yorktown, or letting them utilize some portion of that?
Sure, we're open.
I am a lifelong resident of the town of Yorktown here. I have never been in that building, and I'm looking forward to go in there and see actually what it looks like. I really
come on over. Yeah, we'll give you a tour. Come on over.
All right, that sounds great. All right, that's all I got.
Mr. Galero, quick question for you though. When we're talking about, I just want to make sure we're all very clear, because there's been a lot of questions that I know that my office has received about it. The way that your plan is proposed, the main building is in fact being preserved. I just want to be 100% crystal clear on this.
Preserved and restored.
Okay. And then when you say maintenance for the public areas,
yes,
essentially what it seems like from the renderings and from the description that we heard tonight is it's basically a park that you're willing to maintain for the town?
Yes. Yes, I'm not going to donate the land to because the house sits on that.
Right.
But I will open it up to the public, and I am willing to talk to the town on what uses they could see on the first floor of the main building, which is handicap accessible.
The main building, and then also the public portion of it, which is like the trails that we saw going around.
Yes, the pond, the access down to Route 118 and Underhill. It's roughly around 3 acres. It will be walkways, sitting areas. There's probably going to be a bridge that's probably not shown on here, but yeah, right there, we're going to need to do a bridge over the stream. So it's going to be very scenic, and it'll be the focal point of the development.
Right. I guess to be more pointed though, it's not going to fall to the responsibility of the parks
Please let
department.
me in, question mark. I got locked out.
Ed, you're
My computer
unmuted.
froze.
Ed, you're unmuted.
Ed, you're unmuted.
Mute yourself.
I'm sorry, Mr. Galero. So as I was saying, but for that area,
Yes, the town will not. They will not have to maintain anything on this site.
okay. That thank you. That's what I wanted to ask.
Sure.
I want to make sure that's clear for also the board, but also for the public.
Yes.
I know Councilman Patel had a couple of questions. Councilman Patel, did you want to ask? You're muted, Councilman Patel.
Unmute yourself.
Councilman Patel, you are muted. Can you unmute yourself, please? Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, let me tell you, since 18 years, I have been to that building. There used to be some public meetings and like in those little shade like building, and it was cold. And I think it was given free access to those buildings. And if I'm really, my memory is leaky now. But since the school opened, I have taught in their school how the computer technology created right here in New Yorktown until they closed down last year, okay? And into that building, many times I have been there. It was some places there was, they require more works and all that. So it's a beautiful building, and some things I like it. But let me just say something else. Those fancy buildings, to me, just like a Lego, these designs are very common all over the world. How much is cost to live? Those are the privately owned unit or rental?
Which area are you talking about? I'm sorry.
The main building, there are the condos will be individually purchased or rental.
Okay, so the main building that the apartment building, which is closest to Route 118 and the existing building, that's apartments. On the other side of the main road as you drive in, that's all going to be condos. And there's going to be, one building's going to be flats, okay, condominium flats, elevator, and the others are going to be townhouses.
And
is that a rental unit or individually, privately purchased?
Those are going to be, the condos are going to be privately purchased, and the apartments are obviously rentals. Yes.
And how much money somebody has to, I don't think I'm going to buy it, but how much money you needed to rent or purchase that unit? Is there any estimate now?
We really don't have any estimates as at this time.
I have to apologize. I had to go on my other computer. I got kicked off. I had 2 follow-ups to some of the questions, Paul, that you answered for Councilman Diana.
Sure.
Hold on, Councilman Lachterman. Hold on one second. Councilman Patel, are you finished with your questions?
No, let's learn more. I want to learn more. And
I want to make sure that you were finished with your questions, before Councilman Lachterman.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you. Go ahead, Councilman Lachterman.
All right. I was writing things down that we just wrote, but everything got a little messed up. Well, actually, I'm sorry, they're not follow-ups for Paul. The follow-ups were on the John Tegeter questions, but Paul may have answer on one of them. So if we don't, John, if we don't get the 30 parking spots, I think it was, for the senior center, what does that do to that project?
Well, I had some discussions with the rec superintendent and Patty DeMarsh, who takes care of the Albert Cappellini Community Center, in which most of the senior clubs meet in now. And the initial determination was that on some of the heaviest days, there could be about 50 cars, parking spaces needed. So we preliminarily determined that you would need, in order for it to work, you would need at least 30 spaces available on a regular basis for the senior center to work. If you don't have that, I don't think that the senior center will function properly.
Yeah, because I was concerned. I've been to a couple of the, as a liaison, of course, the AARP meetings. Not that I'm a member, which I am, but the lot would get extremely full over there. And then, you know, John, I know a big part of this, and this is where Paul he might be better served not answering the question per se, but under the current zoning, I think I was under the impression that if they wanted to come in and say, hey, we're just going to keep the zoning current, they could take down the historical aspects of the property without an issue. There's no protection written in at that point.
There's no protection written for any building other than legislatively adopted landmarks for any building to prevent it from being demolished by an owner. No.
Okay, but
that's a building permit application, which is basically a ministerial action. So.
Okay, and if, say, it was rezoned to the R3, are there any protections in that zoning or
No.
not?
No. There's no protections in any of our zoning.
Right. Okay. I think, and the reason, Paul, that it came to mind, I think it's commendable to you that you want to preserve and keep that land, that historic building. I know it's not landmarked, and there are probably too many changes in it to make it landmarked at this point in time. But the commitment to spend, you said, close to $1 million, and then the upkeep on it, it's commendable. I want to thank you just for including that in this plan and trying to preserve that. Not everyone.
You're welcome. Yeah. Thank
Not
you.
everyone will take that viewpoint on the money well spent.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Yes, Councilman Patel.
Suppose town wins $10 million lotto from the just a hypothetical question. Will you sell us the land back to the town?
No.
No, I'll give it to you.
Me, I'm not going to hang up that long. When time comes, I gotta make room for others. Okay, I am not too far away, in my age. Okay, but things can happen. People.
They could.
You gotta have some.
Why would we want this large piece of property? We can't even take care of the property we have currently. So it's that's not a developer has the property, not us.
And I think also when you look at it's about where I went out, but did you mention about $250,000 a year to upkeep? I don't.
Yeah, but it's going to be more than that.
More than that.
I just don't see how we put that on the backs of our taxpayers.
Yeah.
So I have a question for John. May I ask you just, John Taggart? Okay, John. How this building architecturally fit into surrounding buildings, on those couple of streets around there, on those apartments, like just if you look from the sky,
The proposed buildings?
Yeah.
Well, I think if you said looking from the sky, I think they fit in terms of the units per acre, which we've shown. They are they're in the proper area that has already been selected by a number of multi-family developments, namely the Beaver Ridge and some of the ones directly to the south, which makes sense because it is, these are transitional properties that move from a commercial area to a single family residential area, and they provide that transition and border and boundary to that. So that way it makes sense. Architecturally speaking, I think so far the designs are very pleasing. I think they replicate and reminisce of the architecture that is presented in the Underhill house itself. I think that they are the very type in terms of their material and their architectural form that we see here and desire in Yorktown more often than not. And so I think it's very sensitively put together grouping of buildings that fits in well with much of some of the buildings that we cherish most here in Yorktown, whether they are historical or more modern.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Nope.
No? Okay. Well, we thank you, Mr. Galero, and your team for the presentation tonight. It answered at least many of the questions that I've been receiving in my office, which I'm happy to point people to, and I hope people were listening and watching, and we'll hopefully get the answers that they were looking for as well, because I know there were many questions about it, but it was very nice to have you here and be able to provide the presentation to us.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it very much. Take care. Good night.
Everyone, have a great night. Mike Oates, thanks for joining the town board in Yorktown.
Happy to join. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Oh, I will keep a lot of money from the senior citizen.
All right, so we're going to move on because we are woefully behind, as apparently is turning into a bit of a reputation of mine. I apologize. We do have with us still a planning board, John Tegeter and Robin Steinberg, regarding a request by the planning board to provide greater transparency to their proceedings. John and Robin, do you want to present this to the board and to the public? John, you're muted.
I'm sorry. Well, I think you did a good intro. We had a member of the public suggest to the planning board to televise work sessions, which are currently not televised, and secondarily to also publish on our website the packages that the planning board receives that we put together for them in order to conduct their meetings. So those are the 2 points of it. So televising the work session is, you guys began televising your work sessions, I think, only a number of years ago. So those are the 2 things. I think they're self-explanatory.
Yep. The televising the work session, to me, is just makes a lot of sense. Mostly because I was on your planning board meeting last night for a bit, and if you were registered to go on through Zoom, you still see and hear and participate in that sense with the work session. So it's all about the same, but offering the transparency for televising them, I think makes a lot of sense, especially since the town board's already doing it, and the planning board is supportive. Is my recollection correct?
Yes. Just in the light.
I always thought not doing the work session was just bizarre. So I'm glad you're doing it.
I'm fully supportive. And then as for the packets, I guess my question really it goes to Robin. Is that something that can be accomplished? Or I guess
it can definitely be accomplished. Not necessarily with the products we have now, only because the books can range over 200 pages.
Right.
So they're generally between 100 and 200 megabytes. and the limit on our website is 32 megabytes for attachments.
Right.
Which is plenty for normal work, obviously. So I've been looking into, we use one company that does our website. We use another company that streams our meetings. They both have products called Agenda Meeting Suites. So I just started preliminary conversations with them to see, you know, what parts we need to add and, you know, like how it would best work for what we do. They both incorporate more of a workflow where you would actually be adding items to an agenda with the information that you want in the packet. So then when you're done, you just say make packet, and you know it's more automated. And both of them are actually an all or for all boards. So they both do pricing by the population of your town, and then once you buy it, you could do it for, you know, town board, planning board, and zoning board if you wanted to.
Do we have
whether you're just doing the agendas or the meeting packets, I mean, it's similar. And they also have different, you can select different documents from the packet so that there's a public view packet, and then there's a, you know, board member view packet for, you know, executive session kind of items. So there's a lot of options.
I just want to remind everybody, so it's very clear to the public that all of those documents are still available as they are public documents. So this would just add a little bit more accessibility, I think. But all of that information is and always has been accessible by the public.
Correct.
Right, and at the moment, we actually do publish little web pages for the projects when they have public hearings, and we post all the documents that the applicant has submitted for the project, and it says in our notice that you can go to that page and look up all the information, and then you can contact us if you have questions, but people don't have to come into the office to look at the plans, you know, for anything.
Online, you can download it and you can sort through it. So it is, to John's point, it's always accessible. Whether you're going through your department to get it or if it's uploaded as part of their public hearing process.
Yes.
Okay. Questions from the board?
No, I think they should do it. It's up to them.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
I would just ask. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilman Lachterman.
I was gonna say, just for the televising of the meetings, as long as it's possible, because I know the work sessions are over at the ACC-CCC building, not in Town Hall.
When we're back in person.
They wouldn't be able to anymore.
Okay.
They would all have to be done at Town Hall, and there would be a cost to them.
Right.
Talk about that.
Right.
And then you know, I've just I know the plans, the paperwork and all is accessible, but I'm curious if any of this stuff is proprietary that comes out, that some things are held back per se, and you know, before uploading everything. I know there's a you know, most of the stuff is presented in, but do we ever get plans where people say, look, this is proprietary stuff, we prefer it not be put out until X, Y, or Z happens?
If it's going into a planning board book, it's public domain, accepting confidential correspondence from our attorney pursuant to things that are confidential under the law. Okay. Everything else is public.
I have a question about the design. I can ask you when you are, you know.
You go ahead, Councilman Patel. I'm done. Thank you.
You know, many of the design today, you know, in even mechanical, electrical, those are now on a public domain, you know, changing the dimension and some structure, you know, so it's like a Lego. You go and look at in the county, many apartment, even in New York City, in New Jersey, very big building, skyrise, they all have the same design, you know, I mean, just a slight change. So I don't know how they can even claim that proprietary information it's like a Lego-like building, you name it,
Well, the designs are copyrighted
Yeah, okay.
to the designer.
Yeah, right.
But once they come into my office and are going into a book, of course, they are in the public. They're public documents.
So if I can just recommend that we have a conversation, of course, with Pat, just on the budgetary side, because obviously neither of these were budgeted for 2021. I think it's important to understand, Diana, from your standpoint, what the additional cost would be for taping the work sessions, just so we can get our hands around it and understand how we're going to pay for it. And then I think also maybe it makes sense, Robin, if you haven't yet, having a conversation with Diana, because if we're able to, if you want to migrate over to this other program that includes town board meetings, obviously making sure Diana is comfortable with that, I think makes sense as well. And also let's make sure we understand the costs and how, again, we're going to pay for that, and we can have that conversation with Pat. But I think conceptually the board is very supportive. We just have to figure out the funding for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
John, can I ask you a question on Underhill Farms?
Sure.
Within their documents to their proposal, they will have to show that the town has the appropriate infrastructure to meet their needs. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions for John regarding what we just saw, or any other topic regarding the overlay districts before we tell him to have a good night, since he had a long night last night too? By the way, I do want to thank both John and Robin for their help. I did receive a great email from an applicant, actually from IBM, singing your praises and how well. Right, how well you represented the town during their entire process. So I really want to publicly thank you for always representing the town at such a high level and a high standard. It really means a lot, I know, to the town board and to the residents of our town. So thank you very much.
Can I just say one
That's
thing?
what we do. Thank you.
John, there was a very large contract from Middle Eastern at IBM Research about maybe 10 years ago, 8 years ago, like that, to develop the most advanced technology available for solar cell. So especially, I take pride in that town is doing like this. I wish they had it done much earlier when I was there, so I didn't have to wipe it out the snow from my car, But it does many good things, really, and it's a wonderful project, I mean, just they come with everything ready to go,
I think it's a model solar project. It really is. And, it has to do with their building and where they are to some degree, but it certainly is a very interesting and I think instructive project.
Yeah, and then the sun will be shining all the time. And then let me just say something little funny, they have a new kind of solar cell that you put the, jalapeno pepper, the capsium.
You sent me this article.
But, there may be some kind of reaction because they use the substrate and there is a lead inside and, maybe some photochemical reaction freeze the electron and it just increase the capacity of the power generating, But anything can happen.
That's for sure.
All right, John, Robin, thank you very much. Appreciate
Night, guys.
all you do. Have a great night.
Thanks a lot.
Feel free to stick around if you'd like, by the way. We're going to move on to Sustainable Westchester.
I'm going to stick around for the.
Yeah, please. We're gonna have Sustainable Westchester join us. Nina Orville, who is the director-elect, and we have Dan Welsh, who's going to provide a presentation for us. Good evening. Hi, Nina.
Hi there. How are you?
Hi, Nina.
This is Slater. Hi, everybody. Nice to
Nina,
see you.
is it official, or are you still director-elect?
I am director-elect.
Okay.
Yes.
Soon to be director of Sustainable Westchester, and she's been a great partner and friend to the town of Yorktown, and it's always great to welcome you back.
Thank you so much.
He's also our guest speaker on Thursday night for the Westchester Municipal Officers Association.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that. I'm making the rounds, and I'll be happy to see you too. Wonderful. And I'm really happy to be here tonight with my colleague, Dan Welsh, who runs the Westchester Power Program.
Yep.
so well for sustainable Westchester. And so what we were going to do this evening, as per the agenda, is I'm going to give you a very brief update on community solar, and then turn things over to Dan, who will walk you through the opportunity that you have to be involved with the Westchester Power program.
Great.
So first of all, as you know, the town has been such a wonderful partner and a big proponent of renewable energy. And the community solar farms that the town enrolled in a couple of months ago are now starting to produce power, which is very exciting in the town of Tioga. And those are projected to give the town savings of over $25,000 a year for the 25-year term of the contract, so more than $625,000 in savings to the town, which is great. And in addition, as you know, in the fall, the town partnered with us on a community solar campaign to bring the same opportunity to your residents.
Yep.
And so there's been a lot of outreach that's happened, and I wanted to let you know that more people in the town of Yorktown have enrolled than in any other town in Westchester County.
Yeah.
All right. That's great.
So I'm not trumpeting that to the other communities, but you can trumpet that.
I absolutely will. Make sure on Thursday's WMOA meeting you repeat that, okay? You happen to know what our number is at? I know last time we talked, it was right around a little under 300. Did we crack the 300 mark?
So you're still. I haven't been able to get the updated numbers. We've been so busy working on things, and there's someone who crunches that for us. But you're right around there. At the end of December, it was 250. The next highest community was Bedford at 200.
There you go.
And there's been a lot of activity since the end of the year. So you're doing great in that respect. And all those people who enroll are going to be saving approximately 10% on their electricity bills. And it's, having significant environmental impacts. So that's all.
And again, that's for both NYSEG and Con Ed customers.
That's correct. We have opportunities for people in both utility service territories. That's right. So in NYSEG, people are enrolling in the same solar farms that the town enrolled in. And in Con Ed, there's a large portfolio of projects that's being developed throughout Westchester County, and people will be subscribed to those projects that are currently being developed.
Great.
And it's 10% for everybody, whether it's NYSEG or Con Ed. That was something that we insisted on with the solar developers we worked with, that it had to be 10%, had to be no penalties, et cetera, no fees. So it's very good terms for everybody who's involved. So I wanted to congratulate you on that. And the other opportunity that you have for the town, if you would like to take advantage of it, is there still is the opportunity for the town to enroll its small electricity accounts in community solar under the identical contract that your residents are enrolling under.
Yeah, I know our finance department wanted just to get their feet underneath them with the large ones that we've enrolled already, and then once they were comfortable and they were ready to go, then I know it's a no-brainer. So we'll be enrolling in those lower ones. I just want to make sure the finance department's ready for it.
Okay, got it. Great. So that'll add a little bit to your savings as well, which is wonderful. So if there are no questions about community solar, we intend to just continue to support the town in rolling that out and bringing that opportunity to residents. If you have other ideas about how to do that we can support you in, we're thrilled to do that with you. But if there aren't any questions about that, then I want to turn things over to my colleague, Dan Welsh.
If I could
Yeah.
just
Please.
suggest, maybe we do, I know we did one of your Zoom webinars for York. Maybe if we do another one, because if I remember correctly, there was a winter storm that had hit. And so we did get a great turnout, but maybe we offer it again. And so we get more people who are learning about it, want to hear more and learn more. So if we could maybe arrange that, that'd be great.
Okay, good. So I'll work on that with your office. That would be wonderful.
Great.
Good. Okay.
Thank you.
So the other opportunity that we wanted to share with you, which is one that really has unparalleled environmental impact, is the opportunity to consider joining the Westchester Power Program, which is a program that Dan Welsh runs for Sustainable Westchester. As you'll hear, we have 28 municipalities that are currently participating in that program, and both NYSEG and Con Ed and more are in the process of joining. And Dan, I think, will share his screen and share with you how that program works.
Let's give that a try. And I'm glad I sat in on that, because now I know what the targets. I live over in Lewisboro, so I know my target is
Tell Supervisor we gotta make up some ground.
we have some. We're doing, okay, but we do have some ground to make up.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
So the other thing I'd like to note is that Sustainable Westchester was really, you could say, born in the basement of the Yorktown Town Hall 12 or 13 years ago, with the formation of Northern Westchester Energy Action Consortium. And that first day, I rode my bike over from Lewisboro, and there was a gathering of maybe 8 or 10 people and a lot of energy, and look where we are today. So I'm happy to be back, if only virtually. So I'm going to tell you about the Westchester Power Program. It is also one of the fundamental core programs of Sustainable Westchester. And of course, it's no surprise that it's about reducing our CO2 footprint. It's a basic supply program, and it's about delivering renewable energy to residents and small businesses in the most economically effective way possible. It is a program that was piloted by us and has become really the kind of the de facto community energy structure in New York State. It's completely aligned with the state's energy policy goals, with the Climate Smart Community program, and with that was just reinforced recently with the issuance of the new Clean Energy Communities guidelines, which we know now those two programs are largely sort of share those rubric items. And we know, Yorktown 100 is working towards an emissions-free grid. And so these are the numbers here that are the opportunity in Yorktown. The state maintains a registry of these numbers. They require the utilities to submit them. They're a little stale, of course. They go back to 2019, but they're representative. The sector in question here, or the target sector, is the small customers. Those are residential accounts and small business accounts that don't get to the level where they have demand meters and everything. So that's this first column here. Of course, as we just talked about, you've got Con Ed, you've got NYSEG. These numbers are in thousands of metric tons, which are hard to imagine what that means, but these are large numbers. These are a certain amount assumed for opt-outs from the program. There's a certain number, which we also pulled from the registry, which are people that are already signed up with private suppliers. So they, we obviously don't break their contract. So the opportunity amounts to something like, 70 to 85%, average 74% of that sector's electricity CO2 footprint avoidance. So it's a huge impact, again, recognized under those several programs. That's the most impactful measure a municipality can take. I'll use this word once and only once. It's very cumbersome. Community choice aggregation. We like to just call it the community energy program. But the principle is again pretty basic. It's a bulk aggregated purchase, and the point of that is we can be proactive about what we do with our power. We're buying clean power when we're doing it on behalf of multiple communities to get more leverage. And it's a proven program. It's been going since 2016 now. And whoops, didn't mean to do that. Sorry. And we have 28 towns now. We just added one more with Tuckahoe last month. That represents 60% of the municipalities in the county. And the unique feature of it is that it's a so-called opt-out program. That means that it becomes the default for the community. It sort of substitutes for the original utility supply for that. But you retain all the options you ever had. So a resident is free to opt out, go back to the utility supply, sign up with an ESCO. They have all the choices they ever had, but it's just that the starting point changes. That's basically how it works. And again, this is just kind of an executive summary. We'll go into the weeds a little more, but it's easy for us to get started and start to look at that. You just basically can give us a nod, and we can start running a few information sessions. We've been through this rodeo a number of times before, and we know to approach it as the town is exploring this. So we want you to have an opportunity to learn about it so that before they take it up in earnest for discussion, you've had a chance to learn about it and give some feedback. So that would be what the sort of action item would be. If I could go through sort of the more of the background. As I said, the program's been going since 2016. It was a pilot with 20 communities. As of today, we have moved through 2 contract renewals, and we're up to 28 municipalities participating. The basic principle, again, is that cities and towns come together and they set the criteria. They're not passive about what they want to buy. They set the criteria and they demand that from the market. Very importantly, it's a vehicle for education and outreach to people about energy, because once we have this program going, we're in touch with all those people through their bills, phone calls. Every phone call about asking about the program is an opportunity to connect with them about people's energy lives. Again, completely on track with the state goals. We know we need to reach 70% renewable energy by 2030, and we're at about 28% today. Most of that is hydropower, and also importantly, this is a great vehicle for us to pursue our very necessary goals in environmental justice, climate justice, and expanding access to these programming options to folks that have been excluded from it. Part of the whole picture here, I'm sure you've understood and heard, is that in order to eliminate all the CO2 in the big energy pie that you've seen, we have to basically electrify everything. So if you're going to do that, you have to green the grid in order to derive the full benefits. That's transportation, buildings. We know it's all going in that direction. Again, here are the full map of the participating municipalities, and there are a few more in the hopper that are working with us to position themselves to come into the program, and we expect to have some news on that perhaps in the next couple of months. Very important, and this is a conversation we have on the phone almost every day, is an educational piece that people's bills are made up of essentially two major pieces. It's the delivery, which is always by the utility. They're the ones that figure out how to get the electrons to your door. But then there's the energy supply. That's you deciding who you want to pay to dump the electrons in the grid. Is it the dirty fossil fuel supply, or are you paying the clean energy supplier? So what we're doing is we're taking advantage of that opportunity to maximize our impact on the supply side, bringing you the benefits of these fixed rates and clean energy with that. Our vehicle for obtaining the most favorable rates possible in the market as of our last renewal is an online reverse auction platform. We start out with a not to exceed price, which is set by indicative pricing we get. And we say, come in and start bidding it down. So the suppliers are bidding against each other in real time. Stakeholders like you can actually sit in on the auction and watch it going on. And that leaves a record of the proceedings. It's 15 minutes for each auction. We do multiple auctions. And at the last minute, if somebody makes a last minute bid, it actually kicks out for another 2 minutes. So we squeeze every tenth of a cent that we can out of that kilowatt hour price. It's important to understand the concept of an eligible customer. I mentioned that the program is directed at the small customer class. That includes these residential customers as well as small businesses. This is like mom and pop businesses that don't have a tremendous load, don't fall into the demand account. So by saying they're eligible, that's to say they're part of this opt-out cohort. They get the letter that says they're going to roll in unless they raise their hand and say they don't want to. They also need to be not participating in the heat assistance programs, these subsidy programs. We have other plans to try and bring benefits to those customers, but they wouldn't be part of this opt-out cohort. Again, the basic structure, when a municipality joins the program, they pick a default supply. In almost every case today, that's the green supply. We still have a couple of municipalities who selected the standard supply, which frankly doesn't work too well with the messaging and everything. But at this point, most everybody is with the green supply. And then again, the residents, that becomes their default unless they can switch. They do ask us to switch sometimes to the standard supply. They can do that freely, or they can opt out very easily. We provide multiple ways to opt out. They can simply call us on the phone. There's an online form. They plug in their ID, boom, they're out. And they also get a card, a mail-back card, which they just check off and they pop back in the mail. When they get that letter, they have 30 days to opt out. They get all those different mediums that I just spoke of, but they can actually also opt out anytime during the program. There's never any fee for doing so, and they can actually come back in as well. On the whole, the program provides a great hybrid of working with the market and the stability of a community program. It's vetted by the municipalities. It's got professional management. The fixed rates provide cost control. You're not going to experience the peaks that we get in utility supply and the uncertainty around that. As I said, it's a tremendous vehicle for advocacy and education. Every phone call for us is a chance to connect, introduce people to other programs, introduce them to the community solar program, and many of the other things that we have going on. We run how to read your bill sessions for seniors groups, who are often the ones targeted by some of the well-known unsavory practices of the less scrupulous players in the energy market. And of course, ultimately, it's about the mitigation of these CO2 and climate change factors. We are not an ESCO ourselves. We're a nonprofit, as we've noted many times. Again, the program is vetted. It's cost control, stability. There's a public bidding process. There's never any termination fees. It provides a kind of insurance policy for your energy pricing, and there'll never be any surprises. 6 months before the contract ends, we start the process again where we're out in the community doing information sessions, run this public bid, and then they still get that opt-out letter as in the beginning of the program. We have an office in Mount Kisco. We are mostly virtual at this point. We have a couple people who who do stay in the office, but my phone right here at my desk rings as if I was in the office. We've spent half an hour, 40 minutes, whatever time is needed to help people understand what's going on with their bill, answer their questions. We have in-house Spanish language capacity where we can refer those calls to our colleagues for that. We run a lot of events of different sorts. It could be in cafes, in popular local haunts, or these days, of course, it's very frequently virtual. On the climate change side, again, we've mitigated across the county over hundreds of thousands of tons, where I think we're at 860,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide. It positions our municipalities for those grants with the Clean Energy Communities program. It's a very high point earnings for that, and of course for other grant opportunities as well.
I have a question.
Please.
The amount of carbon dioxide you remove by using the solar energy, how many cars just translate so what's the that this is the way to go.
Good timing there, Councilman Patel.
This is wonderful, really,
There you go.
Why are we so late?
You're absolutely right. That should have been, the first slide for sure. You're right. That my marketing friends always tell me, put the real highlights up first. And I don't know why this one's so far down in there. It's a lot of cars. The EPA has a calculator that they make available where you can take the CO2 and equate it to things that actually mean something to people, because what's a ton of carbon dioxide, right? So here's the car measure. We also like the tree seedlings grown for 10 years. That rings with a lot of people as well. So the numbers are big. The impact is quite huge. And then Nina just mentioned this consolidation that's coming up. It's a really important development for us because it does mean expanded access to the community solar benefits. We know that there are certain folks that maybe the process of that debit process and the online forms are beyond them. It could be seniors that are not, internet savvy, or folks who are maybe even living paycheck to paycheck, so they don't have, even the ability to manage like a debit removal like that safely. So it's really going to be a great tool for us to direct some of the benefits to folks who've been excluded. Just an overview of what that process would be to join on. There is an enabling law, and you folks are probably familiar with that. You've done it, I know, for Energize, for example. It's just a piece of code which says we are declaring our ability to exercise a local home rule to establish such a program, and it describes the kind of program it is. You get that on the books. It does not oblige you to go ahead with it, but it says, hey, we have the ability to do this. After that, and this is actually a new thing because it didn't used to be set out this way. We could do the outreach at any time, but the PSC, the Public Service Commission, says that's when the clock starts ticking to do the minimum amount of outreach. You can never do too much outreach, but they have a minimum that they want to see. So we do a couple months of outreach. We do these events. We try to get stuff out in the local, community Facebook groups and all the medium that we can. We ask for your help to, put it out on the municipal email lists occasionally. When that's done, we take all those records, package them up on your behalf. We submit them to the Public Service Commission. We say, Yorktown, please, approve Yorktown for participation in this community choice aggregation program. I promised I wasn't going to use that word again, but there it is. And they usually take about 2 weeks. Sometimes they'll surprise you, and like 4 days later it comes through. But you give it 2 weeks to come together, and they come back and they say yes, go for it. And at that point, then you do have the approval to proceed. And the next part of it is about the contracting process. And there's a number of scenarios, and Yorktown's situation is somewhat complicated, or because of the two utility zones. So we have a number of municipalities like the Tuckahoe situation just a month ago, where they just slid into the existing contract. They basically took the same contract, signed it off, and they're off and running. That's an option. It's certainly an option in the Con Ed side, depending on where rates are and everything, because that contract goes until June of 2022. We also have anticipate having a bid coming up with Yonkers. They are on the cusp of signing on, and we'll still have a couple months of outreach with them and more of the process work. But it's possible that could line up, and you could be working together as part of a Yonkers bid, or we could do a whole separate bid. But we want to also take advantage of scale when we can, So I'm not sure whether that's the best idea. On the NYSEG side, it's basically the same, except that I would say that contract ends on December 1st or November 30th. So there's probably not enough time to say slide into the existing contract. By the time you guys were approved, it would just be a few months before that. You might as well just be part of the next bid on the NYSEG side. So that would be a slightly different process anyway.
And what happens if I joined a solar company through NYSEG last year?
So if you're talking about, are you talking about a community solar subscription?
Yeah, what we've already been promoting.
Yeah. So that's a great. I'm glad you segued that question, because we have a lot of pity for folks who are confronted with these different programming options and being asked to sort of distinguish them. I'll go into a community, a board meeting, and they'll say, "Oh, you're from the solar program, right?" Because it's all kind of the same.
Yeah.
So these programs are distinct, and they work together very well. The solar program is not a supply program. I think earlier on I heard somebody talk about electric supply. The solar program is actually not electric supply. It is a participation as a subscriber, where you get these financial credits on your bill. It's a totally separate track. Okay. So it does not, your choice of energy supplier is completely distinct from that.
Okay, thank you.
Right. And it also, the programs really meld well together, because, you want to achieve nominal emissions-free status, right? Okay. You want to get there. And that actually is only going to happen on the supply side. Okay. The community solar does, in some ways, is more impactful, right? Because you're actually putting a new facility online and driving new renewable energy onto the grid, and it's more local. So that's a really impactful thing. But to reach nominal, get credit for the emissions-free status, you have to have what they call the renewable energy certificate. Has to be a part of your supply. That's what happens with the supply program. So together, you have the supply with a fixed rate, and then you have community solar where you get that guaranteed discount, right. And it's a really powerful combination in that way.
Dan, can you tell us what the fixed rate is right now?
So today the Con Ed rate is 7.405 cents for the renewable. Standard is about 0.7 cents less, 6.7. On the NYSEG side, it's 7.19 cents for the 100% renewable, and I forget what the standard is. It's like 6 or something like that.
Okay. And then again, you said that if you hop in to community solar, you would still get your savings.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, and that was probably the clever part of the way they designed that community distributed generation. So it didn't set up a kind of either or like a competitive situation with all the market suppliers of power and it allowed the optimization of both the programs.
So, at what time in the future, the enough energy from the solar to replace the Indian Point nuclear power plant, whatever is generator, so how long in the future?
Right. So you're taking us down into the weeds, Vishnu, and let's go there for a second. The program right now procures renewable energy certificates that are primarily hydropower. Those are the most economic, and they're all based on upstate hydropower facilities. That, as I mentioned, these are different subgrids in New York State. So we're not actually delivering those electrons. The electrons are bought on the market. The credit for the renewable energy is part of this voluntary renewable energy certificate that are registered through the state. But our ultimate goal is to go further and try to drive the dirty electrons out of the local grid. So we also, as a longer term project, there's kind of an evolutionary continuum. The basic supply program zeroes out your emissions. The community solar program starts to drive more local construction of renewables. Longer term, we need a bigger pipeline from upstate. And so we have been talking to all the different players who are part of that, whether it be NYPA, state authorities, and private transmission developers, about trying to be a part of getting new transmission capacity down to Westchester. Because no matter how you cut it, as much as we try to promote local projects, put up canopies on those parking lots and the big box stores, and there's still a lot of opportunity there, but we are never going to have enough renewable generation right here in Westchester. We're going to have to bring some of it in from outside. So that's kind of the long-term vision. We don't take everybody down into those weeds with every phone call, but it's good to be able to step back and kind of understand how we expect to move along that continuum. So I think that's the last slide, but happy to.
Other questions from the board? So is this basically like a continuing evolution, from the community solar option that we provided, and advancing us as we go? I think, and if I remember correctly, Councilwoman Roker, you and I were in White Plains. It was right before COVID hit. Yeah. I think you did a presentation with NYPA about this. Do I remember that correctly?
Right.
And you and I were sitting there with John Tegeter, who was listening, I think. Mm-hmm. We were saying, "Oh, this is awesome." Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. They are definitely part of this continuum, and in some sense, you jumped ahead in terms of what most municipalities have done and went right to the community solar. As I said, the supply program is critical if if one of your goals is to try to zero out your emissions. Right. Achieve climate smart community status, and to build on that, as a platform. And importantly, this is the program that reaches, quotation marks, all consumers, and provides that first opportunity to be a part of the solution, to be part of the dialogue. From there, we can talk about demand response. We have the amazing new program, which is, again, another first in the state, where we are aggregating individual residences for a program that was only available to large commercial entities before, but because of this ability to aggregate, we can bid their energy reductions during those peak days into the market, and they're making $100, $200, $300. Right. All of this comes from the girth, frankly, because we have such a size. We have technology companies. We have various, folks with different offerings come to us all the time. We can sort through those. We have the power to be able to deploy them and maximize the benefits and bring those to our residents. And this is the platform that actually really kicked that off for us and enabled that.
And to be clear, residents would still see their bill from either Con Ed or NYSEG.
Very good point. I didn't really emphasize that. Does not change. They will always do the billing. And again, 2/3 of what goes on in your life, your energy life, is still going to be Con Ed with the, they take care of the wires and the transmission and all that stuff. Yeah.
I think this would be a great educational program for a lot of people because it can be somewhat confusing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We have sessions, inevitably at sessions, people will come. It'll be the first time they looked at their bill in, 3 years, other than to just write the check. And we tell them, okay, guess what? You have a supplier here and you're paying like 12 cents a kilowatt hour. And they had no idea, they signed up with somebody years ago and it's just been going month to month and they don't know about it. So it's kind of an opportunity to make that connection, start to have that discussion with people.
I agree.
Dan and Nina, do you have a model ordinance that other municipalities have passed?
Oh, sure. Yeah, everybody basically is taking the same cookie cutter ordinance. We can supply that to you.
If you could, as a follow-up action item, if you can send that over to me, this way we can take a look at it and we can have our town attorney take a look at it.
Great.
To the board and we can decide how we want to proceed.
Yeah, that's great because, as I said, you can put that on the books. Doesn't oblige you to do anything, but it's out of the way.
Yep. That's the first step. I got you.
Great. Okay.
Thank you, Jan.
Any other questions from the board? No? All right. Dan and Nina, always good to see you.
Actually, Matt, I'm sorry, I had one. Dan, you were talking before about the reverse auctions. Are there any safeguards in those auctions to prevent people from rig bidding or auction bidding, rigging the auction?
That's why we at least set out the, it's not why. I know we don't anticipate that, but we do have this cutoff. They have to beat our target price at least. And from what we've seen of the bidding, it's been pretty aggressive, and we don't see anything of that sort in there.
And it's important to know the bidders don't know who the other bidders are. They can see the price ratchet down, but they don't know who is actually bidding the price down.
You could backtrack those from past auctions to see who's bidding and eventually work around it. But, I just know that, from my background, there have been times that, we would do bids and you'd have to worry about, people getting together and saying, hey, you don't bid on this one, I won't bid on that one. And just make sure those safeguards are there. All right.
Matt and I were talking about our fleet earlier today, and we were talking about our carbon footprint. And I think, looking at what the state has as their energy goal, that might be something we might consider for the town in terms of something similar to encourage people to participate with this.
Yeah, by the way, on the fleet side, obviously we have a tremendous amount of activity going on the electric vehicle side of things. Our Director of Clean Transportation, Seth Lightman, is like Mr. EV. He's been doing this stuff for 20 years. He ran the original NIPA program when they, I don't know if anybody remembers, when they put the little think cars out at the Chappaqua train station and a couple other places. And he's developed a tremendous portfolio of offerings around charging stations, where some of the deals he's got now is actually they will pay you to put the charging stations in. So a lot of municipalities are now following up on that, and because it just doesn't cost you anything, you actually get dollars back. And he's working on a great range of vehicle options. So at some point, I have no doubt you'd want to have him in and just have him kind of go through all the options there. It's a lot of fun to listen to because exciting new stuff. He's working on school buses and you name it. So
great.
Yeah, and this is all part of this is all part of the electrify everything. Once you have that platform, it says, wow, you want to head in that direction and all those things.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Well, we really appreciate your time. This is great. And if you can, like I said, follow up with us and send us that model ordinance, that'd be fantastic.
Yep.
That's wonderful. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
See you Thursday, Nina. Thanks.
Okay, see you soon.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to Water Department. Kenny Rundle, our water superintendent, is on. And he is going to be joined by the Weston and Sampson team. Kenny, good evening.
Good evening, sir. Can you hear me, board, please?
We can hear you. We can see you. You're looking good. What's going on?
Okay, great. Thanks for letting us join in the meeting tonight. If the board remembers, probably about a year or so ago, I came in front of the board recommending that we need to partner with an engineering firm that specializes in water. We partnered with Weston and Sampson's. They're a great team together with Joe and Jeff. They have a lot of forward-thinking ideas for our infrastructure. I'd like to introduce them, but if I could, just before I do that, and I know we're short on time, so I'm going to try to keep it to a limit. I just wanted to talk about very quickly about the water main breaks that we've been experiencing this winter. Okay, so just to kind of put it into perspective, the water mains, they break always in the wintertime is when you have the most breaks. And what happens is we found that most of our water main breaks are on cast iron pipe. Okay, and what happens is it gets very cold. The cast iron becomes brittle. Okay, and they crack. And I've heard a lot of people say that, boy, you had a lot of water main breaks this year, and what's going on with the infrastructure and everything. But just to kind of put it into perspective, for 2020, we had 28 water main breaks. 2019, we had 30 water main breaks. And in 2018, we had 50 water main breaks.
Get those numbers again for me. So 2018, you had 50. 2019?
We had 30.
And 2020?
We had 28.
Okay.
So I took a look at this time period versus last year, the same time period. So from December 1st to December 1st, 2019 to January 31st, 2020, we had 7 water main breaks. Mm-hmm. And from this December 2020 into January 31st of 21, we've had 19 breaks as of January 31st. And we've probably had about an additional 6. So we're probably at 24 or 25 breaks. I had a resident call me and was saying that, boy, all I'm hearing about is the water main breaks. And what I tried to explain to him is why they break. And also the lines for communication are much more out there now between the supervisor and through the Nixle. It's so much more awareness of the water main breaks, which is a good thing because we want the residents to be aware of what's going on. So we are experiencing more water main breaks. It's not that the infrastructure is crumbling and it's old. It's not getting any younger, right? But if that was the case, the numbers would just consistently go up if our infrastructure was failing. So I just want to make that point, that it's not. It's the cold weather. It's the ground shifting. And a good analogy is if you just imagine took a pencil and put it in the soil and the earth is moving up and down, the pencil is not going to flex. It's just going to snap. So that's basically what's happening with the pipes. So like I said, I just wanted to touch briefly on that.
Thank you, Ken.
But if the board has any questions for me regarding the water main breaks, please feel free.
Let me tell you, you have aches and pain as you get older, right? Okay. I'm going to explain in a very simple science. The pipes are old, but it's the oxidation of the iron. And as the time improve, they have other element added into the pipes. So it may give some protection, corrosion protection. So when the pipes are corroded, the mechanical strength goes down. And the thermal expansion in winter time, the temperature of the water, as it gets cooler, it shrinks it. But as soon as it gets near the freezing point at 32 exactly, the volume increases. And this is the reason the pipes, one of the reasons pipe breaks it. And the thermal conductivity of the iron versus the corrosion or whatever the sediment build up, that's another problem, because I see some of the pipe, you have it here, if this pipe is a 6-inch diameter, and by the time the water is, it's just tiny little one. Remember all these things? So these are the main reason. And, you know, if you eat too much, artery clogs, same thing. Same happen in a pipe, you know, you gotta take care of it, you know, that the maintenance, preventive maintenance is remove the sediment through some chemical treatment, but it's not really, it's very expensive. So all you gotta do is replace it or cement lining it. And this material which you use in cement lining, they have some different mechanical property and reduce the chemical reactions with the pipes. So these are the main thing, and they require money. MONEY, $1 million, you know, the little check like that. We have to invest the money. Otherwise, the water will not be flowing in your pipe.
Kenny, correct me if I'm wrong. Cement lining does not prevent breakage, correct?
No, it reduce. No,
nor will it reduce breakage.
Lining, huh?
Nor will it reduce breakage, right, Kenny?
No.
I'm asking Kenny, Vishnu, not you.
Hold on.
It will increase is the flow of the water, okay? And the reason it's breaking is more than one reason, okay? Because it's the corrosion in the pipe, and there's a salt has a lower, different kind of thermal expansion. When water molecules turn into ice at 0 degree, the volume increases. There are only few materials in the world God has created. That's why you have a pothole and it cracks, you know. So this is the science of the pipeline I'm talking about.
I'm not saying that the pipelining is bad. I'm just saying that pipelining does not prevent the breaking of pipes.
Say it again. I didn't hear it right.
Then the question that I think what Councilman Diana is asking Kenny is if does the cement relining, will that help reduce the number of water main breaks?
No. I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm just saying the increase in the flow.
Good.
Okay. So
yeah, right.
if the continuous flow is going on, then you will not have a chance to freeze the water either in the joint or in the walls and like that.
Right.
And then end of the ground.
Councilman Patel's right. We've seen it. We've seen the pipes that look like this that you're supposed to put your fist through, and you can't even you can barely get a finger through. That's what Councilman Patel's talking about. Right. Yeah. So Kenny, why don't you go ahead with your presentation tonight? I know you've got some guests and it's getting late, and I apologize for being tardy on our end. But why don't you go ahead with your presentation?
No problem, and this is a perfect segue. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce Weston and Sampson, Joe and Jeff. Jeff and Joe, please take it away.
Sure. Thank you. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. I got a brand new speaker, so that should address these the microphone issues that I have here. I appreciate your time this evening. Realize it's getting late. Hope you guys all put an extra pot of coffee on. We wanted to introduce ourselves. We've been working with Ken for a number of years, particularly with the cement lining project and providing him some insight over the last few years. You might recognize myself. We presented to the board 2 years ago for the I&I project. So that's where you see me from. I'm a water, sewer, pipeline person. And I've got Jeff Budrow here with me, who has over 30 years of municipal experience, especially on the water side as well. We prepared a very brief PowerPoint just to guide through our discussion, if you don't mind me sharing my screen.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. All right, let me know if everybody can see that. We should have the opening slide here.
Yep.
Good. Okay, very good. And I promise we'll keep this brief because I know it's getting late. So again, I'm Joe Zongel. I'm a team leader here at Weston and Sampson. I'm an associate shareholder, and we have Jeff Budrow, who's our project principal, who's a senior associate. Who we are. So Weston and Sampson, we've been around for a long time. We were founded in 1899, so we've got over 120 years of service. We're located up and down the East Coast. We have offices locally in Mount Kisco as well as out of Albany. Albany is our primary design hub, but we cover up and down the Hudson Valley. with a number of Westchester clients local to Yorktown, in addition to Yorktown. We've got nearly 700 employees. We are a full-service environmental engineering firm. We also have a construction branch, and we have a services branch that operates and maintains water systems, wastewater systems, pump stations, things like that. What I wanted to focus on here, while we are a full-service firm, I wanted to focus more on the water side. So we do a lot of water system capital planning, water system evaluations, water system design. Those are the types of things that I've been talking to Ken about. We've been trying to provide some assistance. We also do site civil, utility, landscape architecture, the whole suite of services, basically from project planning and feasibility through design, through bidding services, through final construction. So from cradle to grave for construction projects. Our team, so I put together an org chart. This is just a snapshot of some of the people that would potentially be working on some of these projects. So we've got Jeff and myself in the management roles. We have Leah Stanton, who has over 25 years. She's our discipline leader, vice president of our water group. For hydraulic modeling, we have Ryan Fleming, who used to work in White Plains. He's now out of our Rocky Hill office, but supports us on a lot of New York projects. He's a New York PE with experience working with New York City DEP. And he's a water system expert, especially when it comes to water process and things like that. So Ken's had the opportunity to speak with him on a number of occasions. We offer a full suite of GIS services. We understand that you guys have that, and that'll be going towards the water model we're going to discuss. So it'll work well with the GIS system that you guys have in place. We also have additional staff that has a lot of experience of capital planning, including Jeff McClure with over 20 years. Also SCADA, which is, instrumentation controls, computerization of systems, to put it in layman's terms. Jeff, you want to introduce yourself in a little bit more detail?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. You're doing a great job without me. Jeff Budrow, it's my 36th year of anchoring our Albany office, and most of my career has been spent doing infrastructure projects just like the town of Yorktown, supervising an awful lot of the design and a lot of the efforts that we have to improve and rehabilitate old infrastructure and design new infrastructure. Councilman Patel hit it right on the head. These are old systems. They're just like old arteries, and the more information that you have helps you manage these things. Joe can tell a story, but we won't take time to do that tonight, about a local community that recently spent $100,000 repairing about 6 or 7 different breaks in about 20 feet of sewer, if you can imagine that, 1 year before they were going to get to it as a part of their capital plan. So if that information had been a little bit better and a little bit more timely, that $100,000 that they spent on an emergency break would have been spent on a capital project. So that's kind of what we're here to talk about tonight. We want to be proactive and help the community. Back to you, Joe.
Great. I'll go through this one, quickly. What we plan on doing is provide a comprehensive team focused on water system planning and engineering. We want to utilize our local support, our local knowledge of the area, familiarity with the health department. We've gotten your cement lining project permitted through the health department. We're familiar with all the local regulations and things like that. Responsiveness, that's one of the things I like to hit on. It sounds like a simple thing, but we find in this industry that not everybody is as responsive as they claim to be. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can ask Ken anytime he calls. We're usually right back with an answer or a response or jumping on it. And we hope to continue to be able to provide that service to Ken. And we just want to provide cost-efficient solutions for short-term and long-term planning for the town. So our goal is to try to make sure that we can provide the best advice possible in implementing whatever improvements might need to move forward. Or there's been instances where, I'd probably get in trouble by my supervisor by recommending that we don't move forward on projects because they're not really in the town or village's best interest. So, so our project approach, I have this slide here because Ken asked me to talk basically on 2 things. One, he wanted to talk about the cement lining project. So the cement lining project, for those of you not aware, we were originally commissioned to do design in 2014. Which was completed in 2016 and permitted by the Westchester County Department of Health. That project, the reason it took so long is the district actually kept finding additional sections to add on. So we added it to the design, and the idea was to have a phased approach to implement this work. It never did get constructed, and we just recently filed for a permit extension through the health department, which they granted for an additional year. So we offered a letter to them, and they accepted it. So that's still an option for the town if you'd like to proceed with that. But Ken asked us what engineering report we prepared, and I think where this is going is looking to get potential funding through grants or other sources to help support this project.
Right.
So there's a few things that go into grant applications, but the primary one is an EFC compliant engineer's report. So the engineer's report we had to put together originally for the health department was a simple 2 to 3 page report that just explained the project, explained what design standards we're adhering to, and where the projects are going to be, and it was very simple, and that was our scope at the time, and that was our intent, was to keep it quick and sweet. EFC has an outline that's available online. It's a very comprehensive report if you haven't seen one before. It asks you to evaluate a number of options. Some of them aren't applicable, but yet they make you go through the paces, like putting in decentralized systems, such as putting wells at everybody's house. Obviously, that's not feasible. But it'll make you go through full replacement, cement lining, basically to demonstrate that your project is the most cost-effective manner, because the EFC wants to make sure they offer a grant that you're spending the money in the smartest way possible for the taxpayers. So we provided Ken with a proposal to put together a report for that. There are some additional items that typically go with EFC grants if that's what you're looking to pursue. And I spoke to Ken today. It's an application form. There are some board resolutions that need to be passed. That's not part of our scope, but those are things that I can help Ken work through, or other town representatives. And they're not overly complicated to do. So we can provide some guidance on that. And then we also want to provide some guidance for project phasing if you were able to secure funding, whether you're looking to get an EFC loan or whether you get a grant. Because this project is comprehensive. I just had to double check what the numbers are. There's almost 4 miles of 6 and 8 inch cast iron pipe that's scheduled to be relined. And the reason that you target cast iron pipe is that cast iron pipe of this vintage didn't come with a cement lining installed. So ductile iron pipe today is specified to have cement lining, which prevents or limits the amount of tuberculation that builds up in the pipe. That's that nasty stuff you see in the pipe that you might have seen when you go by Ken's office.
Right.
So you don't see that on PVC pipes. It doesn't grow on that, or HDPE and the cement lined ductile iron pipes. Cast iron pipes didn't have that lining. It doesn't have that protection. So your 6 and 8 inch pipes are probably operating more like a 2 or a 4 inch pipe. Which is limiting your supply. It's limiting means for firefighting. There's a lot of different aspects to it that make it an issue. Then I want to talk about, I gave Ken an outline scope of what a capital improvement plan would look like, because he's talking to us about, when do I need to evaluate my water tanks? When do I need to look at my water pipes? How do I decide which part of the system do we attack? And all of that goes into what's called a capital improvement plan, where you analyze the entire system. You look at it from a flow basis, and you also look at it from a analytical basis, based on the report that Ken just gave. Where are you seeing more of the breaks? Where are you getting complaints on low flows? And then you put all that information together, and then you put together a phased plan. So that way you're not reacting on either an emergency basis, like Jeff explained, where you're paying $100,000 for one small repair. You're allocating money over the course of a few years, and then you can set up your bonding or however you're funding it in a smart, targeted way, and you get more bang for your buck. But the first step in doing that is developing a hydraulic model. And the Yorktown Water District has a head start on this, because you guys do have a comprehensive GIS database. So what we would do in this step is take the GIS, and we would convert it into a water modeling software, either WaterCAD, WaterGems, whichever one of our modelers, and after we discuss with Ken, we feel the software is most appropriate. So we would take the information from GIS, we populate it with things like the pipe age, the material, the diameter, all those types of parameters. Then we would add the water sources, so we understand you have multiple interconnects, you don't have your own water supply, you're purchasing it from other municipalities. And then add storage tanks in the system. So now we've got a running representation of what you have. And this includes hydrants, this includes valves, this includes, all the aspects of the water system. Understanding that there's a limited budget, what we're proposing to do is then have Ken provide us with your top 10 users, water users, volumetrically through the year. Then we can add those to the system. So now we know what's coming into the system and we know where it's going out, and then we can distribute the rest throughout the system. Once that's made, you want to calibrate the model. So how do you calibrate the model? You run flow tests. You run flow tests on hydrants. You measure what the flow and residual pressure is, and then you calibrate the model based on what you're seeing real time, and then you can change the condition of the pipes. Is known as the C factor, which is how smooth or rough the pipes are. So the C factor on a ductile iron pipe, a brand new PVC pipe is going to be a lot higher than an old tuberculated cast iron pipe. Then we'd run different simulations. We can run peak demand. We can run if there's a fire somewhere. We can run a lot of different simulations. And we can develop what's called diurnal curves. So diurnal curves are your flow throughout the day. So you're going to have a higher demand, from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. when everybody's getting up and taking showers. Then your usage goes down, and then it comes back up, say, around 5 o'clock. The weekends will have different diurnal curves than during the week. So we do that, and then we can develop that model and see how the system reacts during different flow scenarios. Jeff, is there anything that I missed on the hydraulic model before we start getting into the benefits?
In the summertime, when the sprinklers are on and the pools are on.
Correct, yeah. So we would do peak day, we would do peak hour, and you're absolutely right. In the springtime through the early fall, you're going to have higher water demand because of that, and that's also going to impact what your diurnal curves are. If you have automatic irrigation systems, a lot of people have that early in the morning, so you're going to start to see those differences in flow.
Joe, I just want to amplify one thing that you said. We think of drinking water as being exactly what it is. It's drinking water, but it's also there to fight fires. And a couple of times tonight, I've heard descriptions of, pipes that are supposed to be this big, that are this big, you can barely put your finger in them. If you think Ken is getting phone calls from the occasional water main break, imagine the phone call when somebody's house is on fire and they can only get a few hundred gallons a minute out of a water main that's supposed to provide 1,000, 2,000.
Yeah.
So these are these are just like the arteries in your body, they get clogged. We need to stay ahead of it. The community, the Yorktown community needs to stay ahead of it because it really is it's a life safety issue. Drinking water is drinking water, but it's there to fight fires as well.
Right. So Jeff, what would you want to see on a typical firefighting instance compared to what your house typically uses? Just to give a context.
Your average 3/4 inch water service is intended to deliver 11, 12, 13 gallons per minute. But when you're fighting, and everybody's happy with that, they get in the shower, they turn it on, there's pressure, they're fine. When you're fighting a fire, you need 1,000 gallons a minute. You might need 1,500 or 2,000 gallons a minute. You might need more than that if you're in an industrialized area where you've got a taller building and you need to fight multiple fronts on the fire. It's an insurance issue. It's a life safety issue. In no case do we like to see less than 1,000 gallons per minute. We just recently upgraded an area of the city of Waterville to provide 2,000 gallons a minute to a very large apartment complex. So these are the kinds of things that, life is good until there's a catastrophe, and then people start asking questions about why their water mains aren't delivering that much water.
Right. And one of the things that we'd like to discuss here is the benefits of a hydraulic model. So this isn't just a paper report that we're going to hand to you. The intent is that this is a tool that Ken and his staff can use from the day it's created moving forward. So whatever software we use, we make sure that it's exportable to what's called EPANet, which is a free downloadable software that Ken and his staff can use, and we can provide some training on how to use it. So it's not it's not in a sense where he can, go and manipulate it and change things and stuff like that, but it's more of like viewing a PDF that has layers. He can then see what happens when I close this valve, open this hydrant, how the system reacts. It's like I said, it's the first step for developing a capital improvement plan. You want to see the areas that have low velocity in the water mains. Low velocity means that you're going to have a lot of sediment buildup. You want to see areas with low pressure. You want to see areas with high pressure. This can help identify the target areas for the cement lining project. So the cement lining project, which we designed and is permitted right now, covers 11 different streets throughout Yorktown. It includes Front Street. So this gives you an idea of where these cast iron pipes are located. So Front Street, Underhill Ave, Hanover Street, Baldwin Road, Dogwood Drive, Strawberry Road, Granite Springs Road, Sarles Drive, Windmill Drive, Sunrise Street, and Knoll Place. So with Underhill and Hanover, you're talking about, downtown areas that are impacted by this. So what we would be able to do is not only go off of Ken's anecdotal information of, okay, where the water main breaks happen, but we could use this model to help phase this cement lining project if and when it were to move forward, if there was funding available. So that way we can identify which areas need it based on hydraulic reasons.
Joe, funding is available. We made funding available for the first time in this year's budget. And part of the thought process, just to go back, if we can, to the reason we were looking for the EFC compliant engineers report is because we think we may be able to go double our money with some state funding. So it's worth taking a shot, right? Yeah. So, it's the first time that we're putting money towards it, which is great. One way or the other, we want to do something because we recognize the need. And your report is what we're basing that off of.
Okay. Fantastic. Well,
can I show you one picture of Ken's right here? If you want to see it right here, this is what the pipe looks like. Can you see? You turn my camera on, look at to me, and I'll show you. I have a picture right here. Okay?
Yeah. Yep, we can see it. You can
see it?
Yep.
Okay.
So one of the last things that I wanted to discuss on the hydraulic model is this also helps determine the impact of future development. So the point of this is to provide a tool for the town that Ken and his staff can use. So if you have a new subdivision that's going in, it's going to be, and Mike Quinn as well, when they're doing reviews, it's more than just, is there a water main in the street? Great, we can connect to it. Ken's going to want to see how does that react when you add 20, 30 residences, or perhaps it's an industrial building, it's an industrial user. Maybe you've got a microbrewery that's coming in and they want to brew beer. They're going to use a lot of water. And it's in the town's best interest to figure out, geez, can we really support this area? Because the last thing Ken wants, I'm sure, and others as well, is the local users to say, geez, we have no water now. So this would also provide some leverage for the town to say, okay, you want to build your microbrewery? You're going to have to help support infrastructure improvements, and here's the reason why. And other towns in the area use this approach to help upgrade their infrastructure. So there's a lot of benefits to doing this model that we wanted to point out to the board.
So, okay, can I ask other questions? You don't go to the Association of Town of New York State this year because they don't. I think I have met you.
Yeah, we met a couple years ago at
many times, Yeah, and it's a wonderful thing to see and learn how everything you need to know you can do. You can visit in 1 hour or maybe few hours, but it's really great. You have a wonderful product, yes, and a program.
I think we're on board. I think we recognize that we've got to do something. Mm-hmm. And I think we're on board with this.
Yeah, and Kenny, we spoke earlier today with Pat, so we have a plan forward on the financing. Again, we've got the money in the budget this year to start the relining project. So we can start putting that together as well, and in addition to the hydraulic modeling, which Kenny's been talking about for quite some time. So these are all really important projects and important tools for us to have.
I agree.
Fantastic. And I didn't want to turn this into a sales pitch by any means. Ken just asked that we explain these, and really the purpose was I know we've met, through interviews and stuff. I wanted the board to have the opportunity to interact with Jeff and I and be comfortable with, the service that we've been providing and get to know us. So hopefully we can continue to work together on these projects and address any concerns that you might have.
Yeah, perfect. Ken, you have anything to add?
How do we move forward to get you to do an EFC compliant report?
So I provided Ken with a proposal, so I just need Ken's signature, and we're ready to go once we receive that.
Okay.
Which we reviewed today with Adam and Pat and Ken. Again, making sure that we had the financing available within Ken's budget, which we've come to the determination that we do.
Great.
We've also had success, and Jeff can elaborate on this, on both water and wastewater side of getting EFC grants. They're not available right now, but EFC grants on the wastewater side offer up to 25% of project costs. On water side, they offer up to 60% of project costs with a cap of $3 million. So a $5 million project, they'll give you up to $3 million. EFC also offers low and no interest financing, which we're working with Village of Tuxedo Park. Jeff secured millions of dollars for the city of Waterville. So if those are routes that you're interested in going in, that the EFC report is a requirement, but we can help walk you through some of those steps as well.
Yeah. Is there anything, excuse me, may I say something? How about the federal, the potable water federal regulation? Do they provide some money, a grant or something?
I'm not aware that there's any money available on the federal level. I think a lot of that's being channeled through the state, through the state revolving fund. Joe, do you know of any?
Not on the federal level. It is funneled through the EFC, and I've run into that because I'm doing EFC paperwork for Tuxedo Park as we speak, and it's the federal government is passing it through the EFC for their disbursement. Perhaps with another round of stimulus that might be forthcoming, perhaps there might be new programs or opportunities, and we're always looking out for those. And if we come across them, we'll let Ken know.
Yeah, and we'll be happy to...
alliance program for the whole country, big conference and a lot of advertisements, and the grants and like that. So they are it's the same money through the federal. So.
Well, we've been advising a lot of our clients to get their projects as close to shovel ready as possible, and yours is, because I think we're all hopeful that there's going to be some stimulus funding out here to jumpstart not only the economy, but make a real dent in a terrible need that all communities have for their infrastructure.
Absolutely. Now, is the hydraulic model, is that separate from the engineer's report?
Yes.
It is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and the way that go ahead, Jeff.
The engineer's report is really sort of the main piece of what becomes a grant application. Okay. The engineer's report is the focal point. We've got the drawings and the specs all done, which can support that. There's other things that we'd be happy to walk the town board through that would need to be done. One of them is seeker. Very simple to pass a seeker resolution to improve your infrastructure. It's a type 2 action. It's very simple. I can write the resolution for you if you want me to. And then we need some other resolutions passed along the way. And then the application goes in and you see if you get funded a couple of months later. So we've had a lot of success with these over the years. Good projects tend to pick up funding as long as it's available. And you really need to be in this queue right now, because if or when that stimulus funding does pop out of the federal government, it's going to come through the EFC. We saw this happen in 2009 and 2010 when the last round of funding came through.
Right.
So I would encourage you to get that application in.
Right. When they become available, we've been checking the EFC site, and I actually reached out the other week. And usually they don't even tell EFC when they're going to become available until they announce it. And the issue that we've found is they announce it and they give you about a month and a half to submit it. So by that point, if you're not ready, you don't have time because of the board resolutions, because of the design, all that stuff that needs to go in. But you guys are in great position for that. One of the other resolutions is a funding resolution that they want to see that if a grant is awarded, then the town will be paying for the remainder of the portion of the project, because the last thing the governor's office wants to see is a grant go out and the town say, oops, we don't have the money, we're not doing the project. So, but it sounds like you guys have that covered. The water model goes to a discussion that Ken and I had about, how do we be proactive in planning some of these projects, with the cement lining project as an example, evaluating the water tanks and looking at the system as a whole to, put together a program for upgrades. So they're kind of two separate moving parts, but the water model could help determine where you guys want to focus your cement lining project, because it's so large in terms of linear footage that it most likely would have to go through multiple construction seasons.
Right.
So you're going to want to attack.
It's got to be a phased approach, both from a timing standpoint and also from a monetary standpoint. There's no way you're going to be able to tackle the thing.
You know what? This is great for us because, just as a capital improvement plan.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It sets the stage for it.
I think that's great. I really do, and I think we need it.
And the idea behind the way that we also wrote a proposal for Ken for the hydraulic model. We capped it at $10,000, and we put that one as an hourly task. And Ken has offered support from his department to go out and do the flow testing for us and get us some information. So the idea is that we'll provide a base scope, which if Ken hasn't shared, I'm sure he will, to develop a skeletonized model and develop it as much as we can for that within that budget. And then I'll give him updates as we go along, and using his staff to help supplement that, we can then make the model bigger and more robust and do more things as funds allow. So we'll try to be as efficient as possible using town resources, so that way you guys can get the best product you can in the end. Make the dollar last as long as possible is the concept.
If I could just to talk about the hydraulic model, I spoke with the supervisor this afternoon, and in layman's terms, I was trying to describe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe or Jeff, the hydraulic model, it's like you're building a house, but the hydraulic model is the foundation of the house. So right now, it basically comes down to all institutional knowledge of what areas of town have the pipes or breaks or whatever. But here, to be able to run formulas, and at some point, once we get, maybe be able to predict where the failure would likely to be. And I think it's a great start. Alice, if you remember, I was in front of the board, I think it was last year, and saying that, when Ed Newton was the superintendent, he always had somebody to kind of,
Absolutely.
If somebody was coming in and you suggested, in favor of let's try to partner with somebody that, like if a hotel or a brewery comes into Yorktown, can we supply the water? Yeah, there's a pipe. I'm not an engineer, but having this model to start with, I think it's a great move for the town and the water district.
I think it's something that's necessary at this point. We've got some good offers for people wanting to come in with developments, and I think that we have to know whether or not our infrastructure can support them.
Yeah.
Can I just add something to your project? Look, water tank is also a very serious problem. About 6 years ago or something, and a joint waterworks, the tank was completely gone somehow. And it was done on site with the wire and the cement doing it. It was a 2.4 million or some 2.2. So the Cortland decided that they want to give more water to neighboring, the town. So they actually put a couple $100,000 more than Yorktown. So Yorktown, $1 million something they wanted, and remaining there. And you cannot, leave without the tank. So preventive maintenance of the tank is equally important.
Absolutely.
With the lining project also, because distribution lines, and if you don't have water in the tank, those lines are no good. So all has to go together.
Right. So we do the hydraulic modeling. We discovered deficiencies throughout town. We prioritize what needs to be addressed first, so we can plan and budget for these for the infrastructure moving forward. But I know it's getting late, and I'd like to thank the board for the time here tonight. And Joe and Jeff, I thank you too also for joining us tonight, and great job on the presentation.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Looking forward to working with you.
We appreciate the opportunity. If you want to reach out to us, I'm sure Ken will provide our information, and feel free to give us a call. We're available.
Okay,
Perfect.
thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Have a good night.
We're going to move on now to the ATV law proposal, if they're still with us.
Yes, we are.
We are. We got Jane, we got Walt Daniels.
Right.
Got Liz Talbert, who looks like Matt Talbert right now.
Matt.
Change your name there, Matt. I'm getting punchy. I apologize. We have Jim Moderano and Bob Noble, our fantastic police chief. How's everyone doing tonight?
We're doing well, Matt. Thanks for having us this evening.
Sorry for being so late, but looking forward to
It's all right.
Proposal.
Jane's going to share her screen with us. We have a little PowerPoint for you guys, but really why we're here is we're just being inundated with illegal ATV and dirt bike use since the pandemic hit. It seems to be a lot of people's new favorite pastime, but it's certainly having a negative impact on our parks and our hiking trails. So we looked at the town code to see, what is on the books here for ATV use. And once again, I came to you guys about a year ago with some of the smoking town code laws. Similar situation here. We went back, and it is a code that hasn't been updated since the late 70s. So in town code in vehicles and traffic, chapter 275, part 2, under unregistered vehicles, article 4 in subsections 25 to 37, there's not a true, really updated definition of what an ATV dirt bike is, and also there's no real repercussions or listed fines when it comes to being caught using an illegal, unregistered, or even registered vehicle on our parks and trails. What it says in 275 subsection 28, operation on public property prohibited. It shall be unlawful for any persons to operate any unregistered motor-driven vehicle upon any public property or town-owned land in the town of Yorktown. That's really it. There's besides subsection 36, which if you have a driver that's under 16, you can be fined up to $100, the parent or guardian of said child. But other than that, there really is no other repercussions.
Jim, it really takes department heads to spot the insufficiencies in the code, and then to work with the town attorney to come up with a proposal that you give to the board. Sounds like you want to do that.
Absolutely. There's certainly a need here. Really, the issues are twofold. Not only is it destruction to the parks and trails, but it certainly brings up a health and safety issue on those trails as well. Not only to the riders and also the hikers that are walking as the riders are speeding by them, but also if there is an incident, emergency service issues start to come up and challenges persist of how do we get an emergency vehicle and emergency personnel out to this location? Where is this person that's injured? So, when you have high speeds on these trails in the middle of the woods, bad things can happen. And, part of this is also getting education out there to the public that it is illegal to use these vehicles on our fields and on our hiking trails.
Where's your screen? Hey, Chief, what do you say?
I'm here to listen.
Okay.
All right. Why don't we go to Jane and Walt, and you guys can share your.
I'll share the screen and.
Perfect.
Okay. This one, yeah.
Okay, we're almost there.
No.
Take your time.
No, the wrong screen.
Right.
You're almost there.
Yeah.
Let me. I shared the wrong one.
Okay.
No, don't touch things.
Okay. Yeah, tech, that's in your way sometimes.
Jane, you're going to catch heck.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. So what we thought we would start off, Jim covered a number of things in that first slide. Okay. And you can see what he was talking about. That. Wait a second, we got to get rid of all of your pictures.
At any rate, the basic problem is that in '78, there was no registration for ATVs. Now they're all supposed to be registered, but few of them are.
Okay. So we'd like to show you some abuse where abuse can be found. I have a list here. It's not just our town parks, it's all over the place.
Oh, wow.
Mohansick Golf Course has a sign, no ATVs allowed. There's been, a friend of ours said, oh yes, they get on there on the greens. Not good.
No, not at all.
So here is an example. This is back in April of 11, riding on the parkway in Hunter Brook. Okay, those are Walt's feet to show you how deep the ruts are. Wow. And then they went through one of the streams. We were coming back from a walk, and that same day we saw a quad. It went roaring by. This is another one. This is in October. They've moved the big rocks that we had placed to prevent them from coming up the pipeline onto the bridge. In January, I met a quartet of two quads and two dirt bikes. I will say they were very polite. I wished them Happy New Year and got into discussion, and I was able to get the license plate, the only license plate that was there. And they assured me that they were registered. Like, yeah, really? Matt, you want to talk a little bit about your time in January at Legacy? This is Matt Talbert. Where is he?
Matt, are you muted?
Matt, you're muted, buddy.
Oh, I gave my whole presentation already. Oh, well. Well, recently we were up at Legacy Park, and this pickup truck showed up with a trailer. He was unloading 6 dirt bikes and six off-road bikes, 4 of them that you can see in the picture, which are ATVs, and then they were getting 2 more dirt bikes off the trailer. I let him know that this wasn't allowed. They packed up the trailer and headed down the road. And by that time, one of the police officers got there. They told them that they had loaded up everyone and were leaving. So the police didn't go any further, but they didn't load them up. The 4 ATVs that are on the grass there were leaving. They were going off into the woods, and the 2 adults were leaving with the trailer and the pickup truck. Mind you, these are all kids, very young. And I'm not talking 16, 17 years old. Besides the fact that they're there and they're destroying the grass that's there, if one of these ATVs, motorcycles, dirt bikes, whatever, get on Legacy Field or Granite Knolls Field, you're looking at $1 million worth of damage right off the bat. If they do it to Granite Knolls, that's $1.5 million. We have nothing. There's no bite in the law. And I know I've had many conversations with the pipeline powers to be, as I know the police department has, and all they were able to charge them with was trespassing. Just at Granite Knolls alone, I've witnessed them coming off the pipeline into Granite Knolls. Not only are they going into Granite Knolls and doing donuts in the parking lot, but they are driving on Stony Street at a high rate of speed, a dirt bike. The kid had to be 13 years old, is doing a wheelie right past the entrance to Granite Knolls. This is becoming extremely dangerous. There's more and more. I've never seen this many. All that time I spent up at Granite Knolls during the construction, nothing like this. So that's why we're here, to present, to see if we can get something changed. I know that it is very, very difficult to patrol. Jim and I watched kids on a dirt bike drive right past the police officer who's trying to stop him. He's not going to step out in front of them and get hit by a dirt bike, you know, and they're not going to chase them because they're, for the most part, they're kids. You know, it's crazy, but the parents are allowing it. I get they're trying to give these kids an outlet, but this is extremely dangerous, and it could be very detrimental to our fields.
Okay, thank you, Matt. So I'm going to go to the next slide. So this is the goal that we have. All these bullet points, I think you can read. I don't need to necessarily have to read it for you. I want to point out the bottom three. Make the police enforcement effective and not too onerous for them. I think that's really important. We're not looking for them to chase. We feel that we can establish some physical barriers, although I pointed out they have removed them. And we'd like to see a coordinated effort with the non-town-owned land managers. So, okay. So here's we checked out some town laws. I know that Matt Slater and Adam, the town lawyer, had looked into some as well. And these are some of the restrictions that have been added to town laws. Okay, and some are stronger than others. Things that we're really interested in is increased penalties for violations. Violations can be any number of things, being on a road on an unlicensed vehicle, underage, destroying property, going through a stream. And we'd like to see some cooperative enforcement agreements. So this is a quick look. This is one of the ones we looked at, which is Hillsborough, New Jersey. I think that if people want to see some of these lists of what's there, we can provide them for it. We also looked at Lewisboro. They had major problems in one of their parks, but they don't say how things are enforced. The one that we liked is our neighbor to the east, Somers. What they've done. Particularly interested that they use the New York State Police as well as the Somers Police to enforce their laws. So they also will impound or confiscate a vehicle. So this is a summary of New York State laws. And the idea that you have written permission and it's on the person is very important. Because this was when Brian Gray was superintendent, so I talked with someone, oh yeah, Brian Gray gave me permission to ride. Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, really. We do have noticed that they seem to wear helmets, that the safety equipment, but that still doesn't give them the okay to ride.
The state laws have a lot of specific use restrictions. Different rules for different age groups, and required training courses and a sort of other things.
Right. And I think we're also very much concerned about the property damage and, as Jim went on, about accidents and safety. So here's some jurisdictional issues. You can see this,
we have all these properties. All of them have jurisdiction in some parts of Yorktown.
Right. Walt and I were over doing some removing blowdowns on the Mahansick Trailway, and there was a landscape, 4 guys that were cleaning up the damage the wheelies had done to the playing fields behind French Hill School. So I forgot to take pictures that day, but it was not pretty. So here's some things that are considerations that are not covered by state law. And just a reminder that we can't undermine the state law and make it less restrictive, but we can make it more restrictive. And I'm using we as a generic we. FDR Park had a highway vehicle, decided it was going to go down the Mahansick Trailway that's in the park. This was going from Mahansick Avenue East towards Baldwin Road. E-bikes are new. I'm not going to go into them in detail, but I will talk that over. Jim and I have talked it over, so has Matt. And if Chief Noble wants to talk to us about e-bikes, we'll be glad to do that.
We have tons of information on that.
Right. And snowmobiles are permitted. They're not considered motorized vehicles under state law, but we could decide that that's what you want to do in Yorktown. Okay. All right. So the penalties, I just listed some stuff here. There are court costs, there's tables of fines, restitution for damages, etc. And that's what we're looking towards the court system and towards Chief Noble on deciding on some things that we need to do there. Okay, so we have some next steps here of what we want that we think we should do. And I think this gives us a game plan, working with the Chief Noble and the town board. When I say write a draft, we obviously can pull from other municipalities. I don't think anybody will mind if we plagiarize in this case.
Well, you know what, Jane, we have an agreement with our code company, General Code. They can look up other jurisdictions in terms of their laws if we ask them to do that.
Well, I've looked at a lot of them. Half the ones I found were on E-code. So.
Well, that's exactly what they do.
Right. Any of us can, if you name a town, you can go to their website and find the laws. I've got copies of 8 or 10 of them, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. We looked in New Jersey as well as New York, seeing what was happening. And to let you know, the town of Cortland has some problems with it. We don't know how they solved the problem of ATV use in Hudson Island Gateway Park, but I know we've seen them in Blue Mountain, and I know they're on the Briarcliff Peekskill Trailway. Yep. You do not see them on the North County Trailway because it's paved, and I think there are too many people on it all the time, so they're not going to go there.
Yep. And with spring right around the corner, we'd really like to see some movement here. As the snow goes away, we're going to have those ATVs back out in full force in just a couple months.
Well, you guys can work with Adam.
We're looking forward to it.
Yeah. So we're keeping the Rec Commission updated. We know the law will need to be updated, and I think we need to educate the public on this and what we're doing. So, all righty.
Hey, Chief, do you have anything to add?
Am I muted or can you hear me?
No, we can hear you.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, aside from the 40 square miles and working very hard to get us in compliance with Executive Order 203 and an impending accreditation coming up, I don't have much for this. What I will say is, if you can get trail cams back there, I think that's a start. Okay. If you're going to update the town code to make it more severe for folks that are caught back there on ATVs, and yes, some good points were brought up. ATVs must be registered in New York State. You have to register them. You have to have insurance as well, unless you're utilizing that ATV on your own property. But again, I really don't have anybody that I got sent back there into the woods, to schedule anybody back there. We were fortunate enough to impound an ATV probably about 4 to 6 weeks ago over on Indian Hill Road over in Jefferson Valley. But it's tough. I mean, these guys, if we come across them, they're fleeing. They're going, and we're not really chasing them. I will say that the cameras up at the parks, so that's very good. And what you had mentioned about a public communication or a public education blitz, I think that's the most important component of it. That you get the message out there that, hey, you know what? If you're located in our town parks on town-owned property, we're going to throw the book at you. We're going to look to impound your ATV, significant fines, and possible criminal charges, whether it's trespass is a violation, If you're going to put barriers up to dissuade, pinch points or barriers up to not allow people egress as best you can, maybe we charge criminal tampering or criminal mischief if they move those barriers, if they do any damage back there.
Okay.
But the public education component is big. I think the cameras, again, we're in a day and age where, we need the video, we need the cameras. So if you're going to get trail cams and put them back there, make sure you try to get them in a place where they can't be taken or stolen or tampered with. You want to keep them somewhat discreet, but at a vantage point where you think there is ATV activity. And, once we get this law into effect, and even now, if we get somebody back there, that does have an ATV registered, and I don't know what happened in January with the guy BSing my cop about, throwing those kids in and they were gone. But we could certainly have, dialogue with, while we may not be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that ATV riders, we can identify them, we can go to the house and speak with the parents or speak with the owner of the ATV and tell them, hey, look, if we catch you back there, we're taking it, and we're going to try to hold on to it as long as possible. It's going to cost you time. It's going to cost you money to get the ATV back. But it all begins with a town code that addresses that. And I appreciate what you said, not making it too onerous, because it's the absolute truth. I'd be lying to you to say, hey, yeah, let's go. It's tough for us, with the kids on dirt bikes and ATVs. But in my experience, you ask for the public's cooperation. You try to educate them as to why you're asking them for the cooperation, and you try to communicate well and make it known that you are looking to do this. And then maybe word spreads in the community, hey, look, you know what, maybe we should try someplace else. Yorktown may be coming after us with the ATVs.
I know a couple of years ago, down in Irvington, they had major problems in one of their parks, and they tried the police, and effort. It turned out by local pressure saying, look, my kid just built a trail for his Eagle project. I don't want you messing it up. So there was a lot of public pressure on them that way. I don't have any trails right now. I can say that I can have an Eagle project for, so that we can go after that way. But I also would like to know, do you need two witnesses to have?
Or can you prosecute based on the cameras?
Well, here's what you would have to do. Here's what you would have to see if it was legal to do. Irvington, while we're jumping back to Irvington, I think Irvington's 2 square miles. We're 40 square miles, a lot of parks, a lot of ground to cover. As far as prosecution, yes, usually you do need a witness. You need a deposition and a statement from somebody attesting to the fact that I saw this person this date, this time, in this location, and this is what they did. However, if you can, if there is a way to craft a town law so that it is the equivalent to, a red light camera, where you're fining the registered owner of the vehicle involved, that may be something that you can do. I don't know how much of a fine you'd be able to receive, but it would make it a bit easier, because let's face it, it's going to be tough to identify. You can identify the vehicle if it's registered and it has a plate on it, but you still have no idea as to who was operating, that ATV.
Okay.
So what we'll do is we'll continue to work with Adam, our town attorney, Adam Rodriguez. We'll figure out which code we want it. We like best. We can take bits and pieces of it, but also make sure, Chief, that we incorporate your suggestions and recommendations in there to make sure that we obviously needs to be updated. It's been entirely too long. We need to make sure that the law is current, reflects what's going on in our town, and also from the public education standpoint, I think it's a good tool for us to be able to refer to, which is also important.
Yeah, the public education standpoint is very good, and like I said, you know what, as Matt brought up, you have Granite Knolls and Legacy, which are beautiful ball fields. And I think the public would get behind it, and if they knew that, hey, look, this is what we're trying to do, and this is what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to protect our beautiful parks. I think you're going to get a buy-in. I'm not knocking the trails, because I think it's great. I think it's very, very nice. But I think the buy-in begins with protecting the parks, and then once you articulate that, you move on to the trails. And you just say that people like to enjoy the trails and walk back there. They like the peaceful serenity. It's not built for ATV usage. And, that's your starting point. And, a strong public message. And I think, you get more bees with honey, and you try it that way. And then you segue into we're working on policies to strengthen, penalties for the violations. And the end game is to protect our parks and to protect our trails.
Can I ask a question? Is there any place in Yorktown where they can ride?
No, private property and their own property, and also on private property with the owner's consent, with the owner's permission.
And that is in the current code as well. They can have the owner's consent and ride on private property.
Okay.
That's section.
You don't have to give it to me. It's okay. I believe you.
Section 29.
The thing is, you want them to have written owner's consent
on their person while they're riding.
And I will tell you, Alice, that they seem to think the roadways are part of their, trail system too.
For the ATVs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have kids on ATVs and dirt bikes all over the streets, which unfortunately is dangerous.
I've seen them ripping down 202.
Yeah, they don't think they have
202?
traffic laws.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in Sylvan Glen near the Quarry Oak waiting for Walt, and the entrance there by
into the county bus lot, county bus lot. They came in off of 202 down there and into the woods.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I
All right,
saw
we'll continue to collaborate on this. We'll come up with some draft legislation. I appreciate Matt Talbert and the commission for helping push us along, but of course, Walt and Jane for your leadership on this as well.
They've been great. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
Okay, good night.
Great night, guys.
Yeah.
Good night, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Right, Chief.
And Jimmy, I sent you an email. I'll get that out tonight, hopefully.
All right, great. I'll look for it.
Okay. Bye.
Last but not least, we're going to go talk to our friends over at the Yorktown stage. We've got our good friend, Augie. How are you doing tonight, Augie?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Sorry for the late hour. Do we have Barry? Is he with us?
I should be.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Hey,
Well, hello
Barry.
there.
What state are you in, Barry? You in South Carolina, Florida? Where you at?
I'm here in Croton.
Oh, there we go. All right.
I drove back yesterday.
Oh.
Okay, welcome back.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, my apologies for the late hour. I do. This is an important topic though for the board. Two things that we wanted to discuss with you and you wanted to discuss with us. The first being your 2021 rent proposal. We did forgive rent for the month of January, which the board had agreed on, and I believe we need to pass a resolution to memorialize that.
Right.
Part of that conversation was understanding what your long-term needs were. Oh, and Patty's back. And Patty, I'm sorry for the late hour. Thank you.
That's okay.
And what your needs were for the least, whether it's 6 months or for the year of 2021. So we wanted to get a better understanding of where you were and also what plans you have for the Yorktown stage, which is one of everyone's, I think we all agree is an absolute jewel in this town and something that we are all invested in and want to see succeed and grow and reestablish itself. So why don't you fill us in on where you guys are at?
As far as the year is concerned, at first, let's
go with the rent. So what do you need in order to survive for the foreseeable, at least for the short term, meaning the next 6 months?
Well, in short, we need money.
Right.
That's the problem. We have we have been, existing amazingly since February, March of last year. We had some money in our accounts. We raised some money through our programs. When I say raise money, we're talking, I myself, while I'm a salaried employee, haven't taken a dime since March of last year. That's not good for me, but that can change. The reason I'm optimistic is that by the time June rolls around, we will have summer camp. Now, summer camp last year, believe it or not, was full. I know we were scared then, and hopefully people will be less scared now, but it doesn't look like that's the case. But we already have, 20, 30 kids signed up for June, and we just started the website last month. So hopefully we need to get to June. That's all we really need to do. Okay. If we can get to June, then summer camp hopefully will kick in and be able to provide us with funds for the programming for the rest of the year. That's always the case. The dance company, so to bring everybody up to date, makes no money. But as Patty knows, we needed that room because it's part of our summer camp. And the room itself is of importance, the studio. So, but that's an ongoing thing. Dance school is still continuing. It brings in a certain amount of money every month to pay for all the people and the staff and all the whatever we need to do for that. We have a show coming up. It has a very big budget. What is it, Augie? $4,000, $3,000, and $1,000 budget for production, but it keeps our Yorktown stage kids busy. This will be the third production that we've had with the Yorktown stage kids. We're very happy about that. They pay a tuition. The budget's very small. We have no other income. We stream it or videotape it and stream it, whatever the license organizations allow us to do. For the one coming up, we have Disney's Aristocats Kids, and we won't be able to stream that, believe it or not. We'll only be able to tape it and get it out to the parents who are part of the program. There are 17 students in the program, and August Abaticola is directing that production and trying to make sure that it looks like it's $1 million, when in fact he has, I think it was 3,700 at last count. And we can't dip in anymore, so there's not much we can do. We are following that with another show, which we are going to stream, and that's in March 25th. And that is a show that nobody's done. One of the best shows I've ever seen. It's called Urinetown. I don't know if you remember it. It ran for 2.5 years on Broadway, was nominated for 10 and won 3 Tony Awards. And it was just a terrific cast. So that will be, again, a Yorktown Stage Kids production, our seniors, 13 to 18-year-olds. And that will be streamed. So we have a chance of making something on it. You know what? At this point, making $1,000 is already an achievement for us. It helps pay some of the bills. We have paid every bill that we had to pay this year. We owe nobody anything. We have repaid all the people who didn't, in fact, for the canceled shows we had last year, and we're canceling them again this year, because we had in April we had The Sound of Music, which has to be canceled because we can't do that show without an in-person audience. Same thing in July, High School Musical. Those are 2 very big selling shows. We need them. So we're not about to do it with our Yorktown Stage Kids. We're going to wait till we open. And hopefully we will open in the fall. Hopefully this thing by then, everybody will be okay with it. Hopefully the numbers will be reduced. And I'm just looking forward to that day. And I'm very optimistic that we're going to be able to continue in what is now our 23rd year here at Yorktown Stage. So yeah, we have fought through a lot of things. No income is a tough one for us. We've never really had to fight through that one, but it'll happen when it happens. What else do I have to say? That's about the theater camp, the dance, and we're just hoping that the money will start coming in from camp probably in May and June. Everybody waits around to the last second, and it's reduced. But the bottom line is, it may be reduced, but it's still, going to provide tens of thousands of income for Yorktown State, net income. And that's what we're looking. That has always been the only place we made money. Theater, as well, some of you know, the shows that we do, they don't make money. None of them do. So, instead of losing $10,000, we might be winning $500 in a $4,000 budget. it keeps us from borrowing money. And on that subject, I'm applying again for our PPP so that somebody who's not getting paid now can possibly get paid if we can get that second loan through. And that would be a great achievement. But we expect to be here, and we expect, listen, it's going to happen. We're going to have theater, and we're going to have outrageous theater. And Augie is going to tell you a lot more in a presentation of what it is. But we're looking for help through July 1. That's what we're really looking for in any form that the board can help us with. Whether it be forbearance, whether it be added on to something else or pay it back later, whatever it is the town board can do for us, because we cannot pay the rent. We just can't. And that is our major expense with all the things we have. We don't have a lot of expenses. We keep it to a minimum. But
Barry, how much more time do you have on your lease?
3 years. This year, 21, 22, 23.
Okay. So you and I had a conversation about either tacking on 6 months to the end or spreading it out over the 3 years or 2.5 years. Are you still amenable to that?
Oh yeah. And listen, the first one would be winning the lottery. The second one would be, of course, not having to pay it. But those two are definitely in play. Okay. Because we just won't be able to make it.
Right. Well, that's why we want to make sure that we're doing what we can to make sure you do make it. So
absolutely.
That's why, Augie, why don't you fill us in a little bit on what you've got planned? I know that you've got a couple of things up your sleeve there that we're all I know that I'm excited about. I think that the rest of the board and the community.
Oh, yeah, if they don't know it, go ahead, Augie. I'll let you deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, let me just share this with you guys. Let me know if you can see this.
While you're looking. Hi, Tom.
Hey there.
Hi, Alice.
Cool. Can you guys all see that one?
Yeah.
You got that? All right, cool. So, Matt, in all honesty, this kind of goes to the conversation we had a few weeks back about the Arts Council, just making Yorktown Stage in general the hub of the arts in Yorktown, right? And quite frankly, for the greater Westchester area. So right now, what do? Right? We have our 2 annual main stage productions, which are most certainly our most, outrageous, extravagant productions. You can see on the bottom right corner there, our production of Wizard of Oz, which was about 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. That combines professional actors, we hire from the city. Those costumes there, we actually had Broadway costume designer Jim Halliday come in. Those are the international tour costumes that were brought in. They're fantastic. So when we're back up and running again, obviously we'll continue with our, main stage productions that happen. Mm-hmm. Theater for youth audiences. We're going to obviously continue with that. That's that picture of Pinocchio up there. Yeah. So that actually came to my
Facebook memories. I was there at Charlie. And
my God, I know. It's wild, a year ago. I know. But yeah, so that's, that combines professional actors with our, youth kids and things like that. It gives them the opportunity to get their first professional credit. And it's, professional actors putting on a 45-minute production of a classic fairy tale for, Westchester's youth. It's fantastic. Most certainly our fastest growing concept here has been Yorktown Stage Kids, which is the picture in there. It's Beauty and the Beast that we did a few years ago. This has absolutely exploded. It's for ages 6 to 18 years old. They're the productions, thank God, that have been keeping our theater up and running this whole time during COVID. These kids just crave it. They want it. They want to learn, but they also want to learn professionally. That's always been our gimmick. We never wanted to treat it like a youth program. So they learn at the exact same pace as our professionals. They only have 10 rehearsals to learn everything that they do. And then we go directly into dress rehearsals. But they do it, they rise to the occasion, and they love it, which is amazing. Of course, we have our summer and winter camps. Those are huge. That's going to happen every single year without question. Just Dance, our dance studio, that's going to continue on. And lately, the newest thing we started offering is an internship program, which now we have about 10 interns year-round, and that's high school and college. And they come in and they either learn design or they're backstage or they're building or they're costuming, whatever it may be.
Awesome.
It's been fantastic, and it's been a huge help to me, let me tell you.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So let's see what's new. So this is the fun stuff. So first and foremost, the biggest thing is we're going to open up a monthly concert series. None of these things, quite frankly, are anything it's a pipe dream or far down the line. These are things that are already in the work. I already have bands lined up. The second I can have a live audience in here, these bands are ready to go. Awesome. So the idea would be, listen, in a perfect world, it would say, every third Friday of a month, but, with scheduling, we'll see. But basically once a month, we will always have some kind of live concert here at Yorktown Stage. Not musical theater, nothing of that nature. These are local bands. These are well-known bands. They'll be brought in. These are singers, cabaret acts, whatever it may be.
Add to that, Augie, the bands that we're in touch with a guy. We've been talking about all the dates that are open up. He's bringing concerts, bands, known bands or tribute bands like they do in the summer. But sometimes we will get the original people here in Yorktown. And these tribute bands, I don't mean to compete with the Lions, but it's something that I think can stand being here the whole year. He's not concerned, and I've already told him about the fact that they're free concerts. Well, these won't be free concerts, but it'll be, it's going to be a level above, hopefully, with sound, with everything, all the production values. And he's going to bring them in, and he's confident. Let him do one or two. And I told him, as far as I'm concerned, it would be nice if we could split in the fee. But we're ready to bring these people in, even if the theater doesn't get paid. We want them here. We want people here. We want to advertise that around the county. People who will be here. A Beatles, not a little Beatles tribute band, but a major. People have been to Vegas. Beatles tribute band, etc. So that's something that we're really looking forward to. Hopefully that will work.
Great.
And
exciting.
Barry and Augie, if I could be of any help, I do have some other contacts with some people in that level.
That would be huge.
Well, Ed, I will absolutely talk to you. I was gonna say it, but I didn't see your face till right now. I didn't know you were here. Hi.
Yes.
I want to continue that year round, and it'll make it great for the free concerts. Will be even. I don't know if they can be better attended. We've seen 2,000 people at the free concerts, so we'll see what happens. Maybe there's something we can do. Maybe Ed, we can team up even on these, and we'll see if there's something we can do.
That definitely have some great ideas. I've spoken to people about it. We're never able to pull the trigger. So if we have a little partnership there.
That would work for me, as long as we have one something every month, as Augie's indicating. That's what we want. No more dark. We don't want dark.
No, right, exactly.
Right. What's dark?
What?
What's that?
Dark is when there's nothing.
Oh,
on
dark.
Theater,
okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think you said dark. Okay. I know what dark means.
She thought I said dart, which is something.
I thought you said duck.
Oh, duck. Wonderful world.
No, it's getting late. All right, Augie, what else?
So in addition to the monthly concerts, we want to keep introducing the comedy shows. We started diving into that a little bit in the past, and I think one of the most exciting things, I ran out to the lobby and said to Bear, we had about 500 people in the theater the night of a night of laughter here. And I said to him, after a decade of working here, I said, I didn't recognize a single soul that walked into that theater. And to me, that's incredible to know that it's just a complete outside
really
source.
Great.
So if we can keep building that, that's incredible, to keep bringing these outside people into the center of our town. It's amazing.
And that's what we want. Like that comedy show that we had 3 of them last year. They bring in their own people. And guess where they come from? Everywhere. Not only it's Westchester, Putnam, out of the city. They were driving people or busing from the Croton train station to come to see the comedy show.
Oh, that's
they did it on their own. Yeah, and it was great. And I know the guy standing there, Johnny. That's Goomba Johnny, who's standing. I don't know if you remember his radio show, but I know him for about 20 years. He's been here 3 or 4 times. He can bring a lot of people. He knows a lot of people, which is one of them. John Rodeo was here last year, and now he won't even talk to us because he's too big. He's become a very big comedian. But that's great. Let's start some other people out on the road.
Right.
Also, we briefly spoke about this, the theater in the park, right? It's one of the things that I'm dying to do. I know that we have the portable stage. We have the theater right here. We have the performers. I know I could put something up. The idea there, of course, would be that it's free to the public, but we have local vendors, if possible, on the track, setting up booths, things like that. So during intermission, go get a snack, go purchase something, whatever it might be. So, somewhere down the line, that is one out of all of these, that's the one that's the least developed, obviously. So it's one that I want to talk to you guys at some point and really just look at some details. What do we have to use, between the theater and the town and really get that going? Because I think it's just a given. I think it's an automatic, we're right here.
You don't even have to do it on a stage. You've gone to the one in the park?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they are not necessarily on a stage.
Right.
I think it's just fabulous.
Yeah, I would love to do it. I really would. And I think it would just be a great tradition. It's something new for the summer months. I think it would be fantastic. Yeah.
Not for nothing, Augie, though, but considering COVID, I mean, that probably would be a COVID-friendly event that you could have.
Exactly. Well, so that's what I was looking at, because last summer you guys painted the circles on the field out there, and I said, oh my God, imagine selling like each circle $75. Put your whole family in that circle, watch the show. You could literally reserve the seats in the lawn. I thought it would be so perfect.
I think we should definitely try to develop it and see if we can get that off the ground for this, have it ready to go for the spring or something.
Absolutely. Yep.
Great idea.
And also, not for nothing, but I just saw that the state has just launched very similar things.
Yes.
It's like that new theater program. It's like theater and arts program where they're doing these pop-up things all across the city, the tri-state area, that are very similar.
Right.
Into what you're talking about.
Right. So I think it's a given. I really do. I really do. Also, other uses for the stage in and of itself, right? Are art exhibits. There's no reason why a local artist, a local photographer, why can't we open the lobby, put some lights on the stage? Hey, for 6 hours on a Saturday, you have your exhibit in here. People can walk in off the street, take a look, things like that.
Great.
Yeah. Obviously, corporate events, we have 550 seats. If it's a large, bring your entire organization in here. Put on, whatever you need to do. Hold your meetings. We're here, especially during the work week. We rehearse mostly in the evening. The entire work day is wide open, and it's always available.
Yeah.
Movies. I know we've spoken about getting a projector in here. That could easily be something that we get going in here where we're ready and able to go with that. Let's see. Oh, this is huge. So we have our two major holiday shows that are going to start again as soon as we're able to have an audience in here. This is going to be an annual Halloween spectacular. And most exciting, we have an annual Christmas Carol that's going to run for 2 weekends every December from here on out. I'm not allowed to give too much away, but the Christmas Carol is going to be a spectacle unlike anything you've ever seen. They've been building the set for about 4 months now in the BBC studios over in the UK. They're shipping the set over on a barge. It's outrageous. We have Christmas trees coming out of the stage. I'm not really supposed to tell you any of that.
Sounds good.
But it's
our new friend
going to be an extravaganza. It really
friends, and they live in Yorktown.
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
Very awesome.
Wow.
But the Christmas Carol part, Augie, I don't think that's accurate. It's not just 2 weekends. She wants to run it all week.
Oh, so perfect. So she's in between all. Perfect.
Right. We're looking at, and for the first year, they're fitting the bill again because it's their production. They'll either rent the theater or I'm pretty sure at this point we're going to give them the theater. It's not a problem. And Augie and I will be there to help her all the way with production and do all the things that we know. But the Christmas Carol is going to be fabulous.
Right.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. Will that happen this year, Barry?
Yes. As it's scheduled already in December. The Halloween Spectacular is scheduled, obviously, in October. And that's going to be, I haven't seen any part of that, Augie. I don't know that you have. I've seen a couple of pictures, but I haven't seen much of what it is. It's going to be like what we're hoping is like a Radio City music hall event, but Halloween.
Cool.
So we're hoping that they can do everything that they do at Radio City here in Yorktown.
Hey, Barry, is this guy in the picture you?
Oh, no, that is one of
I
our...
had to ask.
That's a fellow by the name of Jeff Schlottman. He's
Augie, am I wrong, though? Come on.
Come on.
Come on, really?
I'm just asking.
He's a good-looking guy, so I appreciate that. Even though he doesn't look it there. He's been acting with me, I hate to tell you when, 1973. We did our first production together. So yeah, we've been around a long time, unfortunately or fortunately, as the case may be. Yeah, that was up in Mayapack at the Farm Playhouse.
Sounds like you've got a lot of great things that you've got planned. I mean, that's.
Oh, we do.
It sounds exciting.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And again, the most, the best thing about it is other than the theater and the park, the rest of it is truly ready to go. We're ready to pull the trigger the second, we're allowed to have an audience in here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everything's ready to go. The bands are lined up. The shows are lined up. All of the new events that we want to have, everything's ready to go. So.
And the license companies are really helping us out. They're every time. Well, we do bitch every once in a while when we tell them we can't get rights and why can't we get it. We actually ask. And once you ask, you actually get a chance to get an answer and somebody who is doing something for you. So they came up with all the streaming that keeps theater alive. It doesn't necessarily keep businesses alive, but it keeps theater alive for the kids and the families, etc. So
Good.
the license organizations are really terrific.
Barry, speaking of licenses, where are we with the SLA? I know I
put it on hold because there was a price tag attached to it, the liquor license, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and I mean that was one thing that had to be put on hold. I notified him and let him know that. So as soon as we get any kind of clearance for an in-person audience, we go right ahead with that, and that's going to be it's $3,000 or $4,000, whatever it is.
Yep.
It will get it back in spades. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, I would imagine you would.
Well, if that would be the first thing we would pay for, would be what we laid out, and then we're both whatever we get, the town and Yorktown stage will benefit by the liquor license.
Right.
I also, on that note, actually, Matt, I reached out to a couple of the breweries in Westchester here. The idea is, obviously we want to have the wine and beer, but I thought it would be kind of interesting just to have a few of, local brands.
Yeah.
Soul Brewery down in Pleasantville, Captain Lawrence and Elmsford, things like that. And they're good to go. So I just thought, the more we can do that cross-contamination situation of just the greater Westchester, come to Yorktown.
100%. I got the one of the owners of Yonkers Brewery coming up for a little visit, so I'll put the whisper in his ear as well. And
Please do. That would be awesome.
That would be great. That's not a business we have to run. That's a business they can supply.
Yeah.
And that would be phenomenal. We also have Craig Shulman, of course,
Yep.
His son his sons are involved.
That's right. I forgot that they have that.
They have their own organization. So I've talked to them about it, and they're happy to supply us with whatever. And I
don't want to step on their toes. I don't. So
no, that's okay.
You stick with Matt over there. It's okay.
Yeah, Matt. Matt. And it would be good, and maybe we could just convince Craig to have a night of music, which would be kind of okay.
Oh, that would be Monica with him.
Yes, of course.
Bring Monica with him. They are great.
Yeah,
they are great. Yep. And they'll bring their friends, which is great, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
We can do this again, just like we did in the first few years. Alan Menken came because our musical director knew him, so he came and we had a beautiful spectacular. We raised some money, which at the beginning was very important.
Yeah,
because we had nothing. So that was very good. But, we expect to have friends come. And are we begging? You betcha. We're out there asking our Broadway friends if they will help us.
And you know what? I went to an evening they did an evening at his house, and it was just magnificent.
Oh,
so
right.
Did that again.
At Pine, when they were in Pine Tree, right?
I'd come because he was great.
Oh, he's just amazing. He's the only actor to play three.
Right.
The leading roles in the named roles of 3 Broadway shows. The Phantom of the Opera, Jekyll and Hyde, and what's the other one?
John Valjean.
What?
Les Mis.
I forgot about that.
What'd you call me, Ed?
Les Mis.
Well, good, guys. Well, we really do appreciate your time. It is late. I don't want to keep you, but this was important, I think, for the board and for the community to see what's in store and why it's so important that we're doing what we can to support you and make sure that you're here and ready to go once we're able to.
It's a shame nothing's happened in your first year, Matt. And
I've been
right. Just waiting for the plane to come.
They threw you into the fire.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Well, listen, we appreciate
your help.
We appreciate it.
We will
Oh,
be
you have
there.
more? I'm
Wait,
sorry.
there's
Oh,
more.
no, don't. Sorry, I'm actually trying to stop the share because we're good. We're more than good.
Okay.
This is live opportunity. We talked about all this, right?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, you're good. All right.
All right. Thank you both very much. We appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night now.
Night.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Okay.
That was great.
Ends the presentations. We do have some resolutions to get through. So we'll jump into those unless the board has any comments that they want to make on what we just saw.
No, it was great.
No.
Okay. Very
Patty, what do you think? We kick them out?
No, we just got to get everybody to go there. We got to help them get the word out.
That's right.
You will.
After COVID, people will be.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah. They definitely have pent up demand. We can't wait to get out of here.
Right. I think we just lost Patty, but Patty, thank you very much. We appreciate you staying on with us. So let's go to resolutions. We'll take them all together. Authorize the town board to waive rent fees for Westchester Ballet. To accept the resignation of Michael Quinn as town engineer. Authorize the supervisor to sign a contract for CARES Act funds for nutrition programs. From the finance department, authorize the comptroller to process a budget transfer. And also, there's a second budget transfer, a resolution to authorize the comptroller to process a budget transfer. Also going to authorize the comptroller to pay the cash value of unused time for Michael Echevarria, who recently retired from the Yorktown Police Department after nearly 30 years. I think more than 30 years, actually. And lastly, from Parks and Rec, a resolution to extend the bid. This is a Chase Press bid extension for recreation brochure.
Before you vote, may I ask you something? Workman compensation was being, properly vetted, that who got injured. What I would like to really propose that you have some kind of record that they when their injury occurred, they had personal protective equipment. This has to be responsibility of HR or whoever, because $350,000 each year we are doing it. We hope we don't have to give it, so they have a better life.
Right.
Getting injury is much worse than getting a little money. So we should encourage them to use. Not only use, but we should provide the the personal PPE because it's a wealth. At IBM, you have got a little paper cut. You can't go downstairs. You cannot have Band-Aid in you. Because it's a good thing. And look at this COVID thing. You can get an infection like this. You will be in hospital, or So we should make sure that these things are already in a medical record.
Yeah, I'll check with HR to make sure that that's being properly documented. But I know that we've provided PPE to all of our employees multiple times, and we continue to supply them as requested, but we will absolutely make sure it's properly documented.
Because, 1 year, somebody got $150,000 and then 100. I mean, it's just and $350,000 given to only 3 people in one department like that. Yeah. And so initially 10 years ago, somebody, would say, hey, I want to make sure that, they check it and nothing happened after that. So we must value the health and safety of the employee. Absolutely. Because, not only employees suffer, due to bad health or whatever the accident, but their families suffer along with that,
Right.
So just a little 2 cents.
I agree with you, and that's something that we can definitely document all the steps that we've taken, and all the equipment that we've handed out, all the steps we've taken, including the pods that we've implemented for our labor force to make sure that they're not congregating, to all limit the exposure to COVID. So that's no problem. I'll talk with HR tomorrow, and I'll raise that with them.
And I hope that everybody's well, those who are affected with the COVID in our workforce, because, they need our support, strongly support,
Absolutely.
Absolutely, they do. Absolutely. So with that, do we have a motion from Councilwoman Roker, second from Councilman Lachterman to accept the resolutions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motions carry unanimously. And with that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Diana, second by Councilman Patel. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Good night.
Good night,
Good night, everyone.
Staying up. Thank you very much.